Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome to the final race day of the 2023 Formula One season. Hope you guys are well, no matter what part of the world you're from, no matter what time zone you're in. Hope you'll be joining me today in hopefully enjoying the final race day of the season, and fingers crossed it will be a kind of memorable final Grand Prix. I mean, this track we know is not really, I think, that capable of producing amazing races. But you never know what can happen. The last few races in F1 have actually been pretty good. Maybe we'll go out with a bang here at the Yas Marina circuit. And thankfully, outside of who is on pole position, we've got a pretty mixed up grid. So I think we will get definitely a decent race. Whether we get a properly good race or not, we'll have to see in the 58 laps, which will be getting underway in just under 2 hours' time. But yeah, I hope you guys are all well. And yeah, hopefully your guys are just as excited as I am for this final Grand Prix. And yeah, it should be a decent one. Plenty of battles to go through. And of course, to start with, we will preview all of those battles in the next hour and a half or so before we get into the Grand Prix. We'll be going through in a moment the data from qualifying just to look at how it ended up the way it did, the starting grid. And then we'll get into my predictions for the race and also get into what the expected race strategy should be today and what Pirelli have said is the quickest strategy for today. And also talk about the the options strategically for certain teams to try and get the best result they can. Of course, remember, there are some battles in the Constructors and Drivers' Championships still to be decided in this final race. The battle for second in the championship between Mercedes and Ferrari, only 4 points separating them. Mercedes, obviously, ahead of Ferrari. McLaren in fourth, only 11 points clear of Aston Martin. Williams, only 7 points clear of AlphaTauri. And they got Alfa Romeo and Haas not too far away from the teams ahead of them either. So we could see a couple final position changes. We'll see in a couple hours' time. But yeah, we'll be getting into the preview firstly. Before we do, though, remember there is a poll running at the top of the live chat where I've asked you guys who is most likely to finish on the podium today at the 2023 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And out of the 4 drivers I've selected for the poll, Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, George Russell, and Lando Norris, out of those 4, who do you think is most likely going to be on the podium today? Of course, in terms of who is going to win today, I don't think that's really going to be a surprise in terms of what happens with that. So yeah, our main area of interest is really what happens from second place down through the field. But let me hide that timer and let's now get into some of the data from yesterday and look at just how it ended up the way it did. And we'll start with, of course, the results of qualifying. So Max Verstappen ended up on pole position by about a tenth and a half from Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen didn't need to improve his second lap in the end. He was still too quick for the rest of the field. Great lap, I have to say, by Leclerc in the end to put it up on the front row because the Ferrari was, as we saw through qualifying, it wasn't looking that great, really, compared to, I mean, especially the McLaren wasn't looking that great. But then in the end, Leclerc produced a fantastic lap and got absolutely everything out of himself and the car as well. And that's why he ended up on the front row by a couple tenths of a second. Oscar Piastri ending up in third. Good to see him out qualifying Lando Norris for the first time in a few Grand Prix. And then George Russell up in fourth. Good qualifying, very good qualifying for Russell. We didn't really talk about it much after qualifying yesterday. But I think his performance in qualifying, it wasn't the best performance throughout the entire field, but it was very, very good to split the 2 McLarens and come so close to out-qualifying both McLaren cars, because I don't think the Mercedes is as quick as the McLaren around this track. So superb from Russell to get as close to Piastri and as close to third on the grid as he did. Lando Norris in fifth. Of course, he made a big error in the final sector of qualifying yesterday, and really that is why he is fifth on the grid. If he had just done or equaled his best final sector from yesterday, then he would have ended up in third place. That's that mistake in the end is what cost him. I don't think McLaren would have got onto the front row yesterday because Leclerc's lap was so special to get him up there. But yeah, definitely third and fourth on the grid was on if Norris and if he had not made that mistake, then that was definitely a possibility for the team. And then a tenth and a half back from Norris, you've got the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda. Definitely the performance of qualifying. What a lap from Tsunoda. To only be half a second away from pole position in an AlphaTauri is quite remarkable, given where they were earlier this season, where they were struggling to get into the top 10 and would be regularly well over a second away from pole position. So it just shows you the progress the team has made, but also Yuki Tsunoda has had a pretty good year. Not an absolutely amazing year, but it's been probably Tsunoda's best season in Formula One, and that was a brilliant lap to cap off his also brilliant qualifying performances in 2023. Hopefully, he can have a good race performance like he normally does. And then you got Fernando Alonso in seventh. Alonso, I think, actually did pretty well in qualifying to end up in seventh place. Maybe, could have ended up in sixth. I do actually think the Aston Martin is quicker than the AlphaTauri, but Tsunoda's lap was just so good that, that's the reason I think in the end, Tsunoda ended up ahead of Alonso on the grid. But yeah, Alonso still doing well to be up on the fourth row of the grid. Hulkenberg in eighth, great performance from him as well. I was not expecting Haas to be in the top 10 whatsoever. I don't think anybody was expecting Haas to be in the top 10. Sergio Perez, ninth, of course, had his final lap time deleted for a track limit violation. He would have started in, I think it was it fifth place? He initially got up to, was it fifth or sixth, I think even? He got up to, something like that. Wasn't a good lap that he did in the end, but obviously got even worse when lap time was deleted, and he will start from ninth on the grid. And then Pierre Gasly, he had his final lap time deleted, and his lap time in Q3 very slow compared to what he had done earlier in the session. So, yeah, Gasly definitely could have gone quicker by probably 2 to 3 tenths of a second than he did in the end, but it wouldn't have mattered because he was, so far away as you can see from Perez just ahead, and obviously Hulkenberg, Alonso, and Tsunoda, the drivers that you would expect him to be fighting with in qualifying. So that's your top 10. And let's go on to the rest of the field. Lewis Hamilton, 11th on the grid for the second. Well, actually, not 11th on the grid for the second race in a row, but qualifying in 11th place for the second race in a row. Terrible qualifying by him. And yeah, the balance of the car was not good for him. It definitely was hard for him to, try and get past those issues and still have a good qualifying. But still, I don't think there is an adequate enough excuse for Hamilton being, knocked out in Q2. Yes, the balance of the car was not right, but still, to be almost 6/10 of a second away from his teammate is not good enough. And even with the balance being the way it is, he still should have got into Q3. Esteban Ocon ending up in P12 with Stroll in 13th, Albon 14th, Ricciardo 15th. You can see how just close Q2 was. Less than a tenth separating all the cars that were knocked out in Q2. And then Carlos Sainz 16th. Carlos has had a very difficult weekend. Kevin Magnussen 17th, Valtteri Bottas 18th, Alfa Romeo having an absolute disaster yesterday. Zhou Guanyu with a very poor lap in 19th, 3.5 tenths slower than Bottas. Logan Sargent, in the end, poor from him as well, because he had the pace probably to get through to Q2, but had all of his lap times deleted in Q1 for track limit violations. I think the first one was at turn 3, and the second one I think was on the exit of turn 1, if I remember correctly. So yeah, not good enough there from Logan, but yeah, at least we know that his pace was, there if he, didn't have his lap time deleted. As well, I just want to say quickly, apologies if I do sound a bit stuffy. I have got a bit of a cold. I did have a quick, 2-3 hour nap before I came on stream, and that's probably why I've got a bit of a cold. So yeah, apologies if it's not making me sound as great as normal. But yeah, those are the results from qualifying. Let's now get into the sector time data, just to understand why it ended up the way it did. So the first sector, which is not really that important, very simple first sector. You're flat out through the entire first sector in qualifying except for turn 1. McLaren and the Red Bull, the two quickest teams. McLaren once again keeping up that very impressive speed in the first sector that we saw on Friday. Mercedes' first sector speed improved a lot, and that's why they ended up having a better qualifying. Aston Martin's first sector speed was decent. Williams's was good. Ferrari, though, even though Leclerc, I think, got the best out of himself and the car, I don't think the car yesterday was at its best. And I do think Ferrari could have been quicker yesterday in qualifying, because when you look at the first sector, I don't think there is really an excuse for Ferrari to be a tenth of a second slower than Red Bull just in that sector alone. So, yeah, if they were a tenth quicker, then, and as I'll show you in a moment with the middle sector time as well, I think Ferrari could have actually taken pole position yesterday had their car been a bit quicker in the first and second sector. And really, the car should have been a bit quicker in the first and second sector. Ocon in the Alpine, then the 7th best team through the sector. AlphaTauri 8th, Haas in 9th, and Alfa Romeo quite far behind in last place. But yeah, the first sector, as we know, not the most important sector for qualifying. The middle sector, the longest sector, is all about really straight line speed. The only corners you have is the chicane of turn 6 and 7 plus the hairpin before that. And Red Bull, the quickest team, but as you can see there, Ferrari almost a tenth of a second slower. Again, that I don't think really should have been happening. Red Bull, not surprised that they're, so quick through the middle sector. They have a terrific straight line speed. But as far as I'm concerned, in this middle sector, Ferrari should have been not even necessarily quicker, but basically on the same pace. Only maybe a few thousandths of a second away. And if, again, Ferrari were a tenth of a second quicker in this sector, and then, half a tenth quicker, like they probably should have been in the middle sector, then Leclerc probably would have been on pole position. But please don't blame Leclerc, because I don't think it was his fault as to why Ferrari did not take pole position yesterday. I think it was the car just didn't deliver the pace that we, I think, rightfully expected yesterday in qualifying. So, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, especially with Max Verstappen not doing a great final lap in qualifying, pole position was there for them. It absolutely was, but they just didn't quite have the pace. First and second sector, like I think really they should have. McLaren third quickest, good to see. Alpine very quick in the middle sector, as we saw in practice through this sector as well. Not quite sure why they are so quick this weekend through the middle sector, where you would expect them to be at their slowest, and then they're, a bit slower everywhere else. I don't really understand that. AlphaTauri, not too bad. Williams probably should be doing a bit better in this middle sector. They should be maybe a few hundredths of a second quicker. and that would have actually gained them probably 2 or 3 positions. Mercedes, though, quite poor, and that's why I say that George Russell did such a good lap in qualifying, because, for him to be lacking this amount of straight line speed, really, and be, a tenth of a second slower than the McLaren in Sector 2, and a few hundredths slower than the McLaren in Sector 1, it shows just how good of a lap it was from Russell to capitalise on one, Lando making his error, and also get as close as he did to Piastri to secure fourth on the grid. So, yeah, credit to George Russell. Haas, not as quick as they should have been, really, in this sector. They should be really about a tenth of a second quicker than that. And then Aston Martin, no surprise, they're the, nearly one of the slowest teams. And Alfa Romeo, by far, the slowest team in this sector, which, again, surprising. Then we come on to the final sector, which, in terms of qualifying, is the most important part of the track. Because that final sector, with so many important corners, turn 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, it really does decide who ends up on pole, as normally qualifying can be very close here. And you can see that final sector that George Russell did is what got him fourth on the grid, and so nearly got him even third on the grid. Hold on, let me just mute myself a minute because I think I need to sneeze. Hopefully that should be... Hold on. Yeah, sorry about this, guys. For some reason, my nose has started to, fall apart. Yeah, this is, this final sector, as I was saying, is why Russell, ended up with such good qualifying, because without this final sector being as good as it was, Russell would have been probably not only fifth, but, a bit away from the two McLarens in fifth place. And this final sector had to be as good as it was for him to be in such a, competitive position, and very impressive final sector time from him. And even for Mercedes, a bit more of an encouraging final sector from them, because I didn't expect them to have the best final sector time in qualifying. Leclerc's final sector also very, very good. Red Bulls, I think, could have been better with Verstappen. As I said earlier on, Max did not improve his second run in Q3, or on his second run in Q3, so there was probably more pace in the Red Bull, but he just didn't show it. Had a bit of a scruffy Q3, to be honest, Max Verstappen, even though he ended up on pole. It wasn't the cleanest session for Max in terms of, improved sectors and stuff like that. And then McLaren, fourth quickest in the final sector. If Lando Norris had not made that mistake at the very end of qualifying, McLaren may have had the best final sector time. Probably would have been the second best final sector time, but it could have been the best if Lando had not had that massive power slide through turn 13. And in the end, as we know, that's what cost Lando Norris and McLaren having a bit stronger of a grid position for today's Grand Prix. Haas F1, very impressive in the final sector. Aston Martin lapping at about the speed you would expect. AlphaTauri, not too bad. Alpine, no idea why they were so slow in the final sector. I know Pierre Gasly's final Q3 lap was deleted, so maybe his final sector was potentially better in terms of lap time than it ended up, showing. But yeah, I said it in practice too on Friday. I didn't understand why Alpine was so slow in the final sector, and once again it showed itself in qualifying. And if only the final sector had been a bit stronger, Alpine I think could have had a bit of a better qualifying than they did. So yeah, not really good enough in the final part of the lap for the French team. Alfa Romeo ninth, just ahead of Williams in 10th. Not really a surprise Williams were the slowest team in the final sector. Alfa Romeo, though, again, a baffling qualifying as to why they were so slow. I don't understand why they were so slow. I think Valtteri Bottas, we go back and look at the lap times in qualifying. Valtteri Bottas did what was it, a 1... so Max did a 1:23.4. Valtteri Bottas did a 1:24.7 or a 1:24.8. That's not that much quicker than Valtteri went in practice 2 on Friday. I think that's only 0.2 of a second better than he went on Friday. Now, maybe you might say that's because, Alfa Romeo were pushing way harder than anyone else on Friday. Maybe maybe that is the case, but I do still think with Alfa Romeo, there was more pace in the bag than what they showed, because to only gain 0.2 of a second from one day to the next, even with the track evolution being high, is, it is not good enough whatsoever. So that's why Alfa Romeo definitely, even though it was a poor result, I think definitely, in my view, had more to show than what they ended up showing. But on reflection, after we've just looked at all the sector times there, in qualifying, what was the overall pecking order in the end? Red Bull, I think, definitely were the quickest team, not by a massive amount of lap time, but I think overall Red Bull had the strongest car. Ferrari, I would say, just about the second best car, but again, I think Leclerc being so good on that final lap really helped them have a 0.2 of a second gap to the next car of Oscar Piastri. And then the third best car in qualifying, I'd say, was the McLaren, and then the Mercedes of Russell just behind. And then the fifth best car, honestly, I would say was the Aston Martin. I don't think the AlphaTauri actually was one of the top 5 best cars in qualifying. Again, I just think it was Yuki Tsunoda, absolutely on one yesterday. I think that's why he ended up, qualifying up in 6th place and was consistently super quick through the session. So yeah, Aston Martin, I do think have a faster car overall than AlphaTauri here. But AlphaTauri were definitely quick. There's no doubt about that. And I'd probably say AlphaTauri had the 6th best car, Haas 7th, Alpine 8th, Williams 9th, and then Alfa Romeo, you'd have to say, even if I believe there was more there in the tank, in the end, they didn't show it. So they were definitely the slowest team in qualifying. But let me just mute myself quickly to blow my nose, and then we'll get on to the speed trap data from qualifying, just to look at whose top speed is really strong and whose is quite weak, and who that might benefit this particular Grand Prix. Right, so that should be okay for a few moments. Yeah, let's get into the top speeds. And this speed trap is located, I believe, at the end of the first DRS zone going into turn 6. No surprise, Williams have the best speed trap, 333.6 kilometers per hour. And, almost a kilometer an hour quicker than the Red Bull. Again, though, no surprise that those two are at the top of the speed traps. Ferrari a bit further behind, 3 kilometers an hour slower down the straights than the Red Bull. Maybe that's because Ferrari have decided to put a bit more wing on their car, try and be more competitive in the race. I hope that is the case. And then Haas, their top speed looks good. Alpine's top speed are quite a bit better than normal, probably because they've took a bit of wing off to be a bit more competitive in the middle sector, because I think they knew that if they were, very weak in that middle sector, that they would be in quite a bit of trouble. Alfa Romeo's top speed was, in the end, despite them being by far the slowest in the middle sector in qualifying, their top speed was still decent, and actually pretty good for them, because normally they have one of the worst top speeds to Alfa Romeo. Mercedes, you can see 326.9 kilometers an hour, just ahead by zero point 0.8 kilometers an hour of McLaren. No surprise, the Mercedes-powered team's not very fast in a straight line, other than Williams. Williams' car is an anomaly when it comes to the Mercedes-powered teams and their top speed. But yeah, Mercedes, if a Ferrari or a Red Bull gets within a second of them, Mercedes and even McLaren are going to be in a bit of trouble because their top speed is not very good. And then you've got Ricciardo, ninth in the AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri's top speed quite low, and so is Aston Martin's. And I think that does also, again, as I was saying earlier with Tsunoda and Alonso, it does show how those two drivers, I think, were particularly very good in qualifying, because, to have the two slowest, top speeds by team around a track that is, not necessarily all about straight line speed, but it is a high speed circuit. And if you do have a particularly slow car in a straight line, it's definitely going to hurt you. To qualify, Tsunoda 6th in the AlphaTauri and Alonso 7th in the Aston Martin, despite being, as you can see, quite a few kilometers an hour slower down the straights, I think is very impressive. So, yeah, credit to Tsunoda and Alonso doing the job they did. And again, massive credit to Tsunoda being only half a second from pole position with a top speed of, 8 kilometers an hour slower than the Red Bull. That is very impressive. And again, does show that AlphaTauri car, obviously, has got a new floor in it this weekend, which is basically in view to, what AlphaTauri are going to have for next year. It does show that they're moving in the right direction, and that they are probably going to be quite strong in 2024. Now, unfortunately, let me just go back to the top 10 results from qualifying. Unfortunately, because in practice 2, we had a long red flag for Carlos Sainz's crash, and then another red flag for Nico Hülkenberg crashing on the exit of turn 1, there wasn't really a chance for race simulations to take place in practice 2. Therefore, I don't have any data for the long run pace like I normally do, because again, there wasn't really a chance to do any proper long runs in practice 2 to find out, who has good long run pace and who does not. So yeah, unfortunately, I can't bring that data to you. So we have to really go off what what we normally see with the teams and what their race pace is normally like. So because of that, let's get into my final prediction for this 2023 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. This is my top 10 prediction. Make sure in the live chat, guys, to let me know your top 3, top 5 prediction, whatever it may be, for this race, and I will make sure in the next hour or so, and really up until the start of the race, to read out as many predictions as I can. But here is mine. Max Verstappen, I think, will win the final race of the season. No shock there. I think he'll win from Charles Leclerc in second by about 20 seconds. Leclerc, I think, will finish a second clear of Piastri, who will finish in third, with Norris right behind in fourth, with Russell in fifth, Perez finishing in sixth, with Alonso seventh, Tsunoda eighth, Hamilton ninth, and Carlos Sainz finishing in P10. If you're wondering why, with Ferrari normally having a race pace that is not very strong at all, if you're wondering why I've gone for them to hold second place, I'll get into that in a moment and get into my my reasoning with that. But let me just quickly blow my nose again. I'll be back in a second. There you go. Yeah, I'll get into my reasoning for why I've gone with Leclerc in second. But yeah, let me know your top 3 or top 5 prediction for the race today. And like I said, I'll read out as many as I can before we get to the start of the race. And let me just quickly, before I go back to the main page and get the timer back on screen, just want to update you guys as to the next 2 live streams coming up on the channel. I will be live in 2 days from now, live on Tuesday night at 7 PM UK time for a full review of the 2023 Formula 1 season, so make sure to come along to that. And then next Sunday will be my next stream after that, where I'll be doing a full driver ranking for the 2023 F1 season. And that will be live next Sunday at 12 PM UK time. That driver ranking is basically me doing what I did at the mid-season review, where I went through every single driver and I ranked who was the worst driver all the way to who's been the best driver. That's what I'm going to be doing in those driver rankings. It will not be a ranking of who's been the most impressive driver and who's been more so impressive. It'll be me ranking who I think has been the best driver of 2023 all the way down to 22nd of who has been the worst driver of 2023. So that's what will be coming next Sunday. And if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe for more content like this, because we'll be coming up with plenty of winter break content to keep you guys entertained and also keep you up to date with everything going on in Formula 1. Yeah, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And as well, next season, 2024, the longest F1 season of all time. We'll see if it actually does end up having the full amount of races. But I will, of course, be covering next season with what I've been doing this season. Watch-alongs, previews, reviews, all of that stuff. So if you want to keep bang up to date next season with Formula 1, this is a great place to be. And for everybody watching right now, make sure to smash the like button. We're on 25 likes. Let's try and get up to, say, 30, 35 plus likes in the next few minutes if we can. But quickly before we get into anything else, let me now get into the race strategy for today and just let you guys know what Pirelli have said is going to be the quickest strategy for this particular Grand Prix. I have a few guesses as to what it will be, but let's see what they officially have to say. So, according to Pirelli, a one-stop strategy is projected, to be the fastest way of doing the race today. And that one-stop strategy is to start on the medium compound tyre, pit between lap 20 and 26, and then go on to a set of hard tyres to finish the Grand Prix. But they do say that a two-stop strategy is still a viable possibility. And the two-stop option, the best two-stop option, is to start the medium, pit between lap 12 and 18, go onto a set of hard tyres, pit again between lap 33 and 39, and then finish on another set of hard tyres. Looking at who has what sets of tyres, obviously Carlos Sainz has got lots of new sets because he starts down in P16. All of the front runners look like they've got 2 new sets of hard tyres. So, yeah, we'll see what the strategy is like. I think some, or if not most drivers, will be going for a two-stop, not a two-stop, a one-stop race today. But I can see a two-stop race happening maybe for certain drivers who maybe, you know, with nothing to lose, it would be better for them, you know, trying out that particular strategy. So, with that in mind, we'll, in a moment, get on to, you know, how the teams, I think, you know, will end up with the results that I've predicted. But before I do that, I just want to do a quick, I guess, channel update, content update, whatever you want to call it. And I want to update you guys, if you guys did not see my community post from a couple weeks ago. Just want to update you guys as to what the plan is for content on this channel over the winter break, because of course today is the last day of the season. So as you saw, on Tuesday night will be the full season review. Don't know how long that stream is going to be, but it probably will end up being a couple hours long. And we'll be going through not quite everything, because like I said, I'm going to be doing a driver rankings for the season on next Sunday. But we'll basically try and cover everything we can in that Tuesday night stream. And then, yeah, on Sunday, next Sunday, we'll do rankings for the drivers for 2023. And then after that, there'll be one final stream for 2023. The following Sunday, after the 3rd of December, on the 10th of December, again, will be my final stream of the calendar year, where on the Sunday, the 10th of December, we'll be doing early 2024 predictions, where I will just, throw out some predictions based on what I, maybe, what patterns I've seen towards the end of this season, and just what I think in general will happen in 2024. Of course, we don't really have any data to base those predictions on, but it will be, a fun stream. Try and see maybe if we end up being, more so correct with our early predictions than we are with our predictions right before the start of the 2024 season. I think in what do you call it? I think there was one year here on the channel where I actually ended up being more accurate with my predictions before testing than I was after testing. So it is possible that it might actually end up being quite accurate in the end. And then in terms of streaming, so yeah, on Tuesday, the full season review. Next Sunday, the driver rankings. And then the Sunday after, on the 10th of December, the early 2024 predictions. And then I will be taking a 2-month break off of streaming. That does not mean there will be no videos on the channel, because what my plan is to upload probably between 8 and 10, or 8 to 10, something like that, recorded videos between, say, the 11th of December and, say, the 21st of February, when, of course, pre-season testing does get underway. I cannot, though, commit to an exact number of recorded videos being uploaded, and I cannot commit to exact dates for those particular videos. And until I know that those particular videos are finished and are ready for upload, I am not going to sit here and say that those particular videos are definitely going to happen. And the reason that is because, as some of you know, I am at uni. I'm in my second year of a foundation degree in media studies, and because of that, I cannot commit to an exact schedule when it comes to videos. I can with streaming, because it's a lot easier with streaming to set the stream up and do the stream. But with videos, they take a lot more time to do if you're going to do them properly, which I am trying to do, especially with my new PC with a lot more memory to try and, produce better videos. So, like I said, the aim is to produce 8 to 10 recorded videos during the winter break, but please do not think that that is an absolute guarantee, because, again, it depends on how much time I'm able to actually have to work on those videos. And obviously depends on what I'm doing with my uni studies and just life, obviously, in general. But yeah, hopefully the first of those winter break recorded videos will be coming your way, I would hope, in 2 to 3 weeks from now. But again, no guarantees that that will definitely be when the first recorded video of the winter break is coming out. But let's see what happens with that. And of course, when I have a recorded video finished and ready for upload, I will then let you know when the upload date comes, what the video is, what it's about, so you guys know going into the video what not quite what to expect, but what it is you will be watching, yeah, at the end of the day. But yeah, the final stream for this year will be on the 10th of December, and then the first stream of 2024 will be on Sunday, the 4th of February, where I'll be doing a roundup of news from the winter break. Probably won't be a ton of news for the winter break, but I'll try and round up the news in the best way I can. And then the Sunday after, on the 11th of February, we will do a preview for pre-season testing and going through, all of the keys for testing and what certain teams have to do in testing to improve on their 2023 Formula One seasons. And then on the 18th of February, Sunday the 18th of February, I will be doing a roundup of some of the car reveals, if not all of the car reveals by that point, that we've had for the 2024 Formula One season. Not just, looking at the cars, but also we'll be rounding up the quotes from the team principals, the drivers, about their thoughts, expectations, all of that going into pre-season testing. Then, of course, 3 days after that stream on the 18th of February will be the next watch-along after today, which will be day one of pre-season testing. And we'll be doing a watch-along for probably the afternoon session. I don't know exactly what schedule I am going to be doing for pre-season testing, but I'll let you guys know as soon as I have decided, which will probably be a few time. So yeah, that is the plan for the winter break. I will make sure to reiterate this on Tuesday night in case some people, have not been here to hear this. But yeah, that's the plan. And hopefully, with the 3 more streams I'm going to be doing this year, and then the 3 streams before testing, with the 8 to 10 recorded videos I've got planned, hopefully that should be enough content to keep you guys occupied and entertained during the winter break, and definitely more so occupied on this channel than you were last year, because last year I didn't really produce any content during the winter break itself. So yeah, that's the plan, and hopefully it all goes well. So let's now go away from that and get into this particular Grand Prix, and let's go through the teams and how I think they'll get on and how they'll perform and how they'll end up with the results that I predicted. Let's also, though, go through the strategic keys going into this race for certain drivers and certain teams to get certain results that they may need going into this final Grand Prix. So, we'll start with the world champions Red Bull Racing. For Max Verstappen, all he's got to do is hold on to the lead for the first lap, and then he will easily pull away. He has way too much pace in that car for anybody else. So yeah, Max Verstappen will take, I'm pretty sure, his 4th win in a row at this Yas Marina circuit. For Sergio Perez, starting in 9th, of course, a bit lower on the grid than he would have been if he had kept his final lap. Poor qualifying in the end from Sergio Perez. What can they do, Red Bull, to get him up into the, say, podium positions, where really that has to be the aim for Red Bull with Perez? I think the best thing they can do with him is to start him on the hard compound tyre instead of the medium, because we know the Red Bull will be able to look after its tyres and still have good pace. And if it is a one-stop strategy today, then Perez should be able to do 25, if not 30 laps on the hard compound tyre, and then finish the race on a set of mediums. And of course, as the race goes on, the track temperature will get cooler and cooler, which will help not wear out the tyres as much as it would do around, a normal Grand Prix event. So that's what I would do with Red Bull, or the Red Bull of Sergio Perez, to get him on the podium. I think that would be the best strategy to do with him, because I think if you start with a medium, then realistically, he's not going to be able to go long enough on the medium compound for it to really work well enough for him to then come back later in the race with fresher tyres and take the podium. So yeah, that's what I would do with Sergio Perez. Start him on the hard tyre, get him as long into the race as you can, until say lap 30, maybe a couple laps longer than that, then finish him on a set of mediums to make sure he is very, very quick at the end of the Grand Prix. But yeah, Red Bull, my prediction for them is Verstappen to win, and Sergio Perez, I think, unfortunately, will only finish in 6th place. Yeah, I think Perez, knowing him, he will make a bit harder work of getting past Hulkenberg, Alonso, and Tsunoda. And I think that's why Perez will be not really quite in the fight for the podium position and will lose, I think, too much time and end up, finishing in 6th place. Not a million miles away from a podium, but yeah, just not close enough in the end. But if they can do that alternate strategy with Perez, then maybe they can get him up onto the podium for the final time this season. Now on to Mercedes-Benz. Lewis Hamilton, what a terrible qualifying he had. 11th on the grid he is. The car all over the place in qualifying. The car on the rear end, quite snappy. Also, a bit of understeer in the car as well for Hamilton. It just, the balance of the car was not good at all. And that is definitely a big reason why he ended up only 11th on the grid. But still, as I said, not acceptable for him to miss out on Q3. I still think he should have made the 3rd part of qualifying. But yeah, what can Lewis Hamilton do from P11? Maybe do the same thing as, what I said Sergio Perez, or what Red Bull might do with Sergio Perez, starting on the hard compound tyre and get him to go as long into the race as possible. Maybe that will work, but maybe the thing is with the Mercedes of Hamilton is because he's lacking pace this weekend. If they do that, start with a hard tyre, he might end up losing so much time in the midfield that he is, by the time we come to the last, say, 20 laps of the race, he might be way too far behind people like, his teammate, Sergio Perez, the McLarens, that he's not really able to fight any of them and he's only fighting for a few points. So it might be a bit of a risk actually doing that. Maybe they'll go for an aggressive strategy and put Lewis Hamilton on a set of soft compound tyres just to make sure they get him, up 2 or 3 positions at the start. But most likely, I think they'll start Lewis on a set of mediums, and then they'll just go for probably just a typical one-stop strategy. I don't think they're really going to do anything that different with Hamilton. And because, again, of the lack of pace he has, and with the, the poor balance of the car, which, of course, they can't do anything about that because the Parc Ferme, or the car has been in Parc Ferme since the start of qualifying. I don't think they... And I think they... hold on, let me rephrase what I'm going to say. I think they know there's not really much they can do. And because of that, I don't think they're really going to try anything that... let's say, adventurous when it comes to race strategy. So, we'll see in the end, but I don't think there's really much they can do to try and get Lewis Hamilton to finish in a really, say, strong position after what was, a very poor qualifying. For George Russell, great qualifying for him, up in 4th on the grid. What can he do? Well, like I said earlier, I think he did really well to split the 2 McLarens and or get almost so close to out-qualifying both McLaren cars, because ultimately McLaren, I think, do have a faster car. So I'm not sure in terms of Russell fighting for the podium. I'm not sure there is that much Russell can do. If he has a great start and gets up to 3rd place, that would be obviously brilliant and that would put him right in the fight. But if he can't do that, then I don't think he has the pace to keep up with the McLaren Piastri quite enough. And I do think Lando Norris behind him will be faster, and again, a faster car. So, yeah, I don't think Russell is going to have, too great of a race today. And Mercedes, ultimately, I don't think have a very quick car for this Grand Prix. And that's why I think Russell will only finish in 5th place. Won't be that far away from the podium. It's still going to be close, but I just don't think ultimately the Mercedes has enough speed to be on the podium today. It's going to take a really great performance from Russell, I think, to be on the podium. But my prediction for Mercedes is 5th and 9th. The reason I'm going Lewis Hamilton in 9th is because, again, his lack of pace, I don't think is suddenly going to, turn around today. And I think he will basically be fighting in the midfield today and will be probably struggling quite a bit. And that's why I think he will finish behind the Aston Martin of Alonso and even the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda. And that would be, if they were to get that result, that would be 12 points for Mercedes. And if Ferrari end up with the result I predicted, then they would. Ferrari go up to 2nd in the championship by a few points in this final Grand Prix. Again, bravo to Charles Leclerc for producing such a great lap towards the end of qualifying to get onto the front row when it wasn't looking very likely that he was going to be, on the front row of the grid. Because I think going into that final run, Leclerc was in, was it 9th? I think he was in before that final run. So, yeah, fantastic turnaround from Leclerc there. But, yeah, for the race today, obviously, Ferrari are not going to have that great a pace, but I think what helps Leclerc today against the McLaren Piastri, which is the main driver he needs to look out for, is, and this is a matter of fact, Oscar Piastri, despite being very quick this season, the McLaren obviously in the races does tend to be quick. Oscar is not the quickest race driver, not yet at least. And I think that will benefit Leclerc quite a bit. And I think as long as Leclerc holds on to 2nd, has a good first lap, doesn't allow Piastri or anyone behind to really get, too close to him, then I think Leclerc will hold on for 2nd place, because I don't think Piastri will, have quite enough race pace to punish Ferrari for their lack of race pace with their car. So that's why I think Leclerc will finish ahead of Piastri. Only by a 2nd. It will be close. It's not going to be a comfortable 2nd place for Charles Leclerc. But I think he will just about take it. For Carlos Sainz, what can they do with him to try and get him a good result? A good result for him would just be to finish in the points, really. And get as many points as realistically they can with him, because of course, in this fight for the championship, for 2nd, that's all they can really do with Carlos. What could they do, though, strategically to get him, say, 8th place or better? What I would do with Sainz, because he has, I think, 2 new sets of... Let me just have another look. See exactly how many new sets of tyres he does have. So Carlos Sainz has 2 new sets of hard tyres, 1 new set of mediums, and 2 new sets of soft tyres. Honestly, what I would do with Sainz is I would start him on the soft compound tyre and just be super aggressive, get him as high up the field as you can, try and get him up to, say, I don't know, 10th, 11th place. And then by, say, lap 10, hit him for a set of mediums, and then try and do a bit of a longer stint on the mediums than maybe you ideally should be doing, to try and, make sure he can do a decent stint length on the hard compound tyres. at the end. So I would do definitely a two-stop race with Carlos Sainz. So like I said, start him on the soft tyre, hit him on lap 10, put him on a set of mediums, do say 20 laps, maybe 25 laps on the mediums, and then finish him on a set of hard tyres. If they do that, I think they could probably get Carlos Sainz to finish 8th or 9th at best, but whether they will do that or not, we don't know. They may just go for the copy-paste one-stop strategy that most people are going to do today. And Carlos Sainz, I do think will finish in the points. I think we'll finish in P10, but again, if they go for an aggressive strategy, I do think an 8th or a 9th is definitely possible for Carlos. I know he's not had a great weekend. I know the Ferrari is not super quick on a Sunday, but I think he will make progress from 16th place. Definitely. Quite a bit of progress. So, yeah. Sainz are going in 10th place. Leclerc, I think, will finish in P2. And if my top 10 that I predicted, if it does turn out to happen exactly the way I predicted, then Ferrari, like I said, will take second in the championship by a few points over Mercedes. And let's be honest, guys, the way Ferrari have finished this season and how competitive they've been, especially, with their qualifying efforts. I know qualifying doesn't score any points, but, with how they've been in qualifying compared to Mercedes this year, I think Ferrari are more deserving of finishing in second than Mercedes because Ferrari have shown more glimpses of actually being able to fight Red Bull on a more so consistent basis than what, Mercedes have. Of course, Ferrari have not really fought Red Bull this season. There's only been really a couple races where Ferrari have been properly fighting for the win. Obviously, Singapore where they won, and obviously a week ago in Vegas. But Ferrari have looked way more likely to fight Red Bull all the way through this season. And because of that, I think Ferrari, again, are more deserving of second in the championship. And really, let's be honest, the only reason Mercedes are second in the championship is because of their driver lineup, not because their car has been, the second best car through the 2023 Formula One season. Let's go on to McLaren. And of course, McLaren also are engaged in a very important fight in the championship. They are only 11 points clear of Aston Martin going into this final race. Unless a disaster happens, they will finish in 4th place. And they deserve to finish in 4th for the second half of the season they've had, where they've been arguably the second best team this season, in the second half of the season. Maybe say Ferrari instead of them, but they've been very, very good at McLaren since that upgrade mid-season in Austria. Lando Norris obviously bottled what would have been at least 3rd in qualifying and has ended up, down in 5th on the grid. I do think, though, Norris will pass Russell because the McLaren, I do think, is faster than the Mercedes, and I think somehow, some way, eventually Norris will get past. The reason I'm going Piastri to finish ahead of Norris, though, is because I think if it takes Lando, let's say 20 laps or so to pass Russell, which it probably will, because Russell is not going to be, massively slower than the McLaren, the point where Norris can pass him easily within a few laps. McLaren, if they are in 3rd and 4th, and Piastri is struggling a bit with his race pace, as he has been a few times this season, what do you call it? I think McLaren probably will and would be justified in calling team orders to, to secure the podium for Piastri in, telling Lando Norris not to fight Oscar Piastri. Of course, Lando probably won't listen, which, I mean, I don't think he's totally unjustified in doing that if he, did decide to do that. But that's what I think will happen. And because Piastri, most importantly, has a couple position advantage over Lando on the grid, that's why I think Piastri takes the podium ahead of Lando Norris. But yeah, third and fourth would be a great end to the season for what's been a brilliant turnaround from McLaren. And I just really hope next season McLaren can keep this up and we can have a full season of McLaren being super competitive and being, regularly on the podium, because it's been so good to see McLaren really not quite back to being a race winning team, but back to being a front running team and being regularly on the podium. It's been great to see that again from McLaren, because it's been so long since McLaren have been a regular podium scoring team. 2012 was the last time they were regularly on the podium and had a car regularly quick enough to be on the podium. So, yeah, it's been a welcome surprise this season. Of course, remember where they were at the start of the year. We thought McLaren were going to have quite possibly the worst season in their recent history, and they ended up turning it into the best season they've had in a decade, or just over a decade. So yeah, fantastic season for McLaren. And like I said, unless they have a disaster, they should end up finishing ahead of Aston Martin in the championship. And let's go on to Aston Martin quickly. Aston Martin, what do you call it? Yeah, Alonso, 7th on the grid. Like I said earlier, I think Alonso's done well to get 7th on the grid. And I think we'll get a few points today. I think the Aston Martin's definitely got enough pace with where it is on the grid compared to other cars, like Hamilton and Sainz. I think Alonso's got enough pace there to finish in P7, which is what my prediction is for Alonso. But yeah, ultimately, they're going to have to hope for a miracle if they're going to end up beating McLaren, rather, in the Constructors' Championship. And let's be honest, they don't deserve to beat McLaren in the Championship, because after the first 8 races of this season, Aston Martin completely fell away and have been pretty much since the, say, British Grand Prix, which was race 10 of the season, something like that. They've been basically a midfield team, except for a couple races here or there. And again, they don't deserve to finish in the top 4 of the championship. Alonso, yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed he has a good race today for what's been a very good season from him. We have to remember, even though this season has ended poorly for the team, Fernando can hold his head high, because I think he's been, without a doubt, one of the best drivers in 2023. Lance Stroll, 13th on the grid. Realistically, I don't think he'll be in the points. Maybe if there's a couple of retirements from the front runners, he can grab a point. But yeah, realistically, I don't think that will happen. Yeah, let's hope Aston Martin can end the season with a few points after what's been a disappointing season, given their aspirations for this year and given obviously where they were in the first 3 months of the year. Now we'll just whiz through the rest of the teams, and then I'll read out some comments and then probably bring Nib on in like 10-15 minutes or so. Who of course will be joining me today. Alpine, yeah, Pierre Gasly up in P10. I mean, realistically, even if Alpine were a bit quicker in the final sector, like I showed earlier, they still wouldn't have ended up higher on the grid. They just weren't that quick overall, Alpine, in qualifying. But at least Gasly's in the top 10. Another Q3 appearance. Gasly has been very quick in the second half of this season, and I think has now beaten Esteban Ocon in the qualifying head-to-head. And Gasly, I think, has been better than Esteban Ocon in 2023. Ocon is getting a lot of credit in the first half of this season, but Gasly definitely deserves quite a bit of credit himself, because he has turned around what was a mediocre start to his time at Alpine. He's really turned it around and had a very strong finish to 2023. So yeah, Gasly, I think really him finishing the points is going to depend on a couple things. One, how quick the AlphaTauri of Tsunoda is, whether, Tsunoda can maintain a good enough speed to finish in the points. And number two, is there any retirements from the front running teams? If those two things, can play into the also, into the favour of Alpine, then Gasly will probably score at least 1 point. But yeah, wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if Alpine don't score any points. They've not really been that quick this weekend. But Alpine, of course, heading for 6th in the championship. Disappointing season for them, but yeah, we'll get more so into that on Tuesday night in the season review. Williams, very poor qualifying, 14th and 20th. Disappointing as well, because I think there was maybe a bit more in there with the Williams car. Alex Albon, I think, did the best he could. I just don't think Williams quite have got the best out of the car this weekend. I don't think they've quite maximised the speed of the car as they could have. Logan Sargent, of course, we know, didn't didn't actually complete a legal lap time in Q1. So who knows whether he would have been, in Q2. I think probably he would have been. So disappointing from Sargent, to have his lap time deleted twice. But, really for Williams, this race is not going to be much of anything. All they're going to be doing is sitting there on the pit wall and hoping that AlphaTauri do not score. What do AlphaTauri need to score? I think 7 points today to overtake Williams in the championship. And of course, if Tsunoda does finish where he started in the Grand Prix, then AlphaTauri will finish 7th in the championship. So like I said, I think Williams will just be sat there hoping that AlphaTauri finish, lower than 6th place and don't get both cars into the points. And then, even if they end up finishing really low down, I don't think they'll be bothered with that. I think all they care about for this final race is making sure they finish in 7th place in the championship, which, as far as I'm concerned, Williams more so deserve. Given the lack of resources they have compared to a lot of the teams they're racing, the lack of, money, and also, the team principal of Williams, James Vowles, he has talked about this, during the season. Williams, they have outdated infrastructure as well. For them to rise up from last season, finishing last, going up to 7th, is a really great jump. And I hope this is the start of something special for Williams going forward into the future. But yeah, Alex Albon, we'll see what he can do from 14th. But as long as they secure 7th in the championship, even if they don't have a good race really at all, then that's all that really matters for the Williams team. AlphaTauri, let's go on to them. Daniel Ricciardo, will quickly touch on him. Yeah, poor qualifying. He just didn't do a good enough final run, did Ricciardo, in qualifying, ending up in 15th place. He definitely could have done better than that. I think Ricciardo, maybe not necessarily could have definitely been in Q3, but I think could have been at least in like 12th place or something like that. I think 15th is a bit excessive in how poor a position that is. But if you were to argue that yes, he should have got into the top 10, I wouldn't really argue against you, because given that Tsunoda, was only half a second away from pole, I wouldn't really again disagree with you saying that Ricciardo really should have been in Q3. But I'm sure Ricciardo will make progress from 15th place, just not enough to finish in the points. Yuki Tsunoda starting up in 6th. Fingers crossed he can have a good point-scoring finish. And as long as he scores points, then I think realistically that is the best he can do. I think AlphaTauri know realistically that them finishing in the top 6 today is not really going to happen unless they get quite a bit of fortune. A couple cars retiring for them to get up into that position. So we'll see if maybe that can happen to allow them to take 7th in the championship. But yeah, as long as Tsunoda finishes in the points, then that'll be good enough from him. My prediction for Tsunoda is 8th, which would be a great result and a great ending to what has been a very good year for Yuki Tsunoda. And let's hope he has a good end to the season. But yeah, AlphaTauri, realistically, are not going to take 7th in the championship. But you never know in Formula One what could happen. And quickly, Alfa Romeo, 18th and 19th. Again, as I said earlier, I do think there was more pace in that car in qualifying, but they just didn't show it. Yeah, as long as they can just get the best result possibly in the race, then can't really demand much more from them. But this has been a disappointing season for Alfa Romeo. They should not be finishing ninth in the championship as far as I'm concerned, especially with Williams, a team with less infrastructure, less money, less resources, finishing, again, 2 positions ahead of them. That's not good enough for Alfa Romeo. And definitely next season, this team has to get back on it because they cannot afford, with obviously Audi taking over soon, they cannot afford to be one of the worst teams on the grid going forward for the future because it won't set them up well for success in, the latter part of this decade. And for Haas F1, they are heading for last in the championship. I mean, if Hulkenberg does finish in 8th place where he's starting, that would actually put Haas up to 9th in the championship. But we know realistically what is going to happen. Hulkenberg will try as hard as possible, but the car will not be quick enough to maintain a top 10 position, which is a shame to say, but that is the reality of Haas F1 in, well, not just 2023, but Formula 1 in general. Yeah, poor season for Haas. If their car was as quick on a race day as it was in qualifying, Haas would be easily in 7th and maybe even not that far away from Alpine in 6th. This team has more potential, but they cannot build a car good enough, quick enough for the races to save their lives. When was the last time this team had a car quick on a Sunday? I can't remember. It was before the birth of this channel, definitely. But yeah, there you go. Those are all the teams, as we've got just over 45 minutes to go in this preview before we get to the start of the 2023 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. As I was saying earlier, make sure to post in the live chat your predictions for the race. Give me your top 3 or top 5, and I'll try to read out as many predictions as I can. And like I said, probably in the next 10 minutes, I'll bring Nib on for his thoughts going into this final Grand Prix. But yeah, I'll get to some of your comments in a moment. But before I do, I am just going to quickly have a drink of water because I'm feeling quite thirsty. So I'll be back with you guys in a few seconds' time. Right, that's a lot better. So yeah, let's get on to some of your comments quickly. The driver's currently just pounding around doing some laps to the grid just to get a feeling for how the car is going into this Grand Prix. But of course, because the cars have been in Parc Ferme since the beginning of qualifying, then yeah, really the handling of the cars should be the same as they were in qualifying. Doesn't mean the pace will be the same, of course, but the handling should be about the same. Yeah. Let's get on to some comments from you guys. So, Astro Stevo, good to see you, mate, says, done already, top 5 again. Leclerc first, Piastri second, Hamilton third, Norris fourth, Sainz fifth, Max DNF. It's time. That would be a brilliant way to end this season, but I think that is really, yeah, that it's going to take something incredible for that to happen. Looney Classics saying, anyone who rates Kimi and Vettel above Lewis is just crazy. Kimi and Vettel are two of the most overrated drivers of all time who only perform in cars built in certain ways. High downforce. I would not agree with what you said at the end there. I mean, all top drivers need high downforce cars, and need the best cars, at the end of the day, to get what they deserve for their talent. But, I mean, yeah, if there is anyone out there who legitimately thinks that Kimi Räikkönen or Sebastian Vettel is better than Lewis Hamilton all time, then you need to give your head a wobble, because there is absolutely no way that... I mean, Raikkonen and Vettel, as far as I'm concerned, are not even on the same level as Lewis Hamilton, which might be controversial to say, but Lewis Hamilton is, as far as I'm concerned, is the best racing driver ever. Sebastian Vettel is not even in my top 5. Neither is... I mean, Raikkonen's not even in my top 10. So, yeah. Let's be reasonable here. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say Kimi and Vettel are overrated. Maybe some people do overrate them, but I wouldn't say in general they're overrated. I think maybe just, there are very small amount of people out there that think they're, the best ever. Crystal Racing earlier saying Bottas is a company man, good enough to be a number 2, but not a world champion. No shame in that. He did what Merck paid him to do. Exactly. Laurie Rastogi asking, where would Perez be without track limits? I think Perez, he would have been in 6th place. Yeah, I think that's where he would have been. Celebrity Olympics says Daniel accepting the AlphaTauri offer was probably a really bad decision. He should have stayed as a reserve all year, probably because he could have gotten better performances there. I don't think it was a bad decision at all. If you're going to put yourself in the market for a top drive at one of the top teams, you've got to be on the grid. You can't just be, away from the grid. I mean, even look at Fernando Alonso. Even though Alonso, is an amazing driver, when he took his sabbatical, he could only get back into a midfield car in the in the Alpine. Sorry, the Alpine. So yeah, you've got to be on the grid if you want to put yourself in contention. Looney Classics earlier saying Lando is not justified in disobeying team orders. He has no accomplishments to give him that power. I wouldn't say he has no accomplishments. I mean, yeah, he doesn't have a race win, but I mean, at the end of the day, if a team gives an order to hold position, and if it was in the scenario that I laid out earlier, it would be justified, but I could see if Lando was a lot quicker than Oscar, you could definitely see Lando's point of view if that was that scenario. So, yeah, we'll see if that happens. Maybe it won't. All just a prediction at the end of the day. Say Regara earlier saying, I don't know how to rate Albon. I mean, with Red Bull, he did not do one great drive now because he's against someone who is debatable whether he should be there. I don't know. Well, that's pretty much what I was saying with what do you call it? That's pretty much what I was saying with Albon earlier this season, because at the mid-season point, even though Albon, even by the mid-season point, had already had a few good performances, I did say that I didn't think Albon had maybe been as good as some people had thought, because, again, his main reference point, which is always going to be your teammate, Albon has had 2 pretty terrible teammates last year and this year. Now, that's not to say Albon has not been performing well this season. He has had a very good season, but to say that he's been one of the top 10 drivers this season purely on, who's been the best drivers, not who's been the most impressive, which again is a totally different thing. Obviously, I'll be doing, getting into all of that next Sunday with my driver rankings. Again, it's hard to say that he has definitely been one of the 10 best drivers this season because, again, his main reference point has been shit. Right, let's find a few more comments if I can. Looney Classic saying Vettel choked against Danny Rick and he choked against Charles, and in 2018 he humiliated himself and showed that he was not that guy. Max and Lewis will crash him in equal machinery. He is a quitter. That's quite strong. But even for me, and I obviously did criticize Sebastian a lot in the early days of this channel. Yeah, I mean, Vettel, you know, had a very disappointing last few years of his career, given obviously, what is the first half of his career was like. But yeah, there's absolutely no comparison. And as far as I'm concerned, maybe not yet all time, is Verstappen, far clear of Vettel. But I think once it's all said and done, Verstappen and Hamilton will be all time a level above, your say Alonso's, Vettel's, Raikkonen's, drivers like that. But as I said, I think yesterday, I am going to be doing a video to do with Max Verstappen and where he currently sits amongst the all-time greats. That will be one of the videos I'm doing during the winter break. I don't know when it's going to be coming out, but it will be one of the videos that I will try to put out during the winter break. And it's going to be an interesting video to do because I haven't really... I mean, I did a video, I think. I don't know if it was on the old channel I had or this one. I did do in the early days, I think, a video or a stream where I went through who I thought the top 10 best drivers of all time were. And the list I gave was, I think, Vettel 10, Alonso 9, Jackie Stewart 8, Prost in 7th. I think then it was Jim Clark in 6th. And then Lauda 5th, Fangio 4th, Schumacher 3rd, Senna 2nd, Hamilton 1st. I think that's what it was. I think I probably did that list in 2019, I think. Yeah, something like that. But because my thought processes and my ways of evaluating truly how great a driver is have evolved or changed since then, my top 10 all-time list is probably slightly different from what it was then. But yeah, it's probably not massively different. I can't imagine my top 5 is going to be any different now to what it was a few years ago. But yeah, again, like I said, we will be doing a video about Verstappen and where he sits all time. Hopefully during the winter break. Right, let me read out a couple final comments and then I'm going to bring Nib on. Astro Stevo says Perez is a reasonable midfield driver, but not top tier. This year has proven that. Also think Max has just mentally broken him. Yeah, Christian Horner actually said, I think was it a week or so ago, that the performance from Max in Miami in the race where Max came back from, I think, 9th on the grid to win comfortably was is what did it. And I think we said it at the time, this could be a real, a big shift mentally for Sergio Perez and could really damage him. And it did. And he's not been the same really since. But, hopefully next season he can, what do you call it? Hopefully next season he can reset. Hold on. Nib's saying, I'm sorry, Will, but it's not controversial whatsoever to have Hamilton first. Yeah, it's not controversial to have Hamilton first one. Will has just actually put his top 5 in the chat. And he thinks Senna number 1, Schumacher 2, Fangio 3rd, Clark 4th, Prost 5th. At the end of the day, we all think differently. We all, again, have different thought processes. We all evaluate how great drivers are differently. So we're all going to come up with a different list for the top 5, top 10, etc. So yeah, but yeah. As far as I'm concerned, Lewis Hamilton is my goat and has been probably since 2019. I'd say was probably the first year where I thought, yeah, Lewis Hamilton is the greatest we've ever seen. But again, you're of course entitled to a different opinion. Anyway, before I bring Nib on, let me just quickly post a link of the stream back out on my community tab. Just want to say again, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Of course, next season we'll be doing plenty of watch-alongs, previews, reviews, all of that stuff to cover the 2024 season. And of course, there will be plenty of winter break content coming for you guys. So make sure to subscribe if you are new. And if you have not hit the like button yet, make sure to do so. We're on 67 likes, I think. Let's try and get up to 75 plus if we can in the next few minutes. And of course, there is a poll running at the top of the live chat. Make sure to vote in that poll and let me know, out of Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, George Russell, and Lando Norris, who is the most likely to finish on the podium today? I'd say Leclerc, but let me know whether you agree or disagree or not. But let me just quickly do this. Come to us here to watch along the final race of 2023 in Abu Dhabi. Quickly get this out. There you go. And yeah, let me just read out this final prediction actually from Celebrity Olympic, who says they think it'll be Charles first, Max second, Oscar third, Lando fourth, Carlos fifth, George sixth, Lewis seventh, Checo eighth, Bottas ninth, and hopefully Daniel 10th. That would be quite a mental race if that was to happen. Yeah, let's now get on to bringing my co-commentator for this final Grand Prix on. Quickly get Discord up. Bring him on. So let me just do this. Right, are you there?
Hello, hello.
How are you?
I'm good, mate. What about yourself?
Yeah, okay. A bit of a cold, as you can hear, and thankfully got a couple extra hours of sleep before the race today. But yeah, looking forward to getting this season done. As I can see on Sky F1, they're about to do the final grid walk. Yeah,
the GOAT, Ronaldo. The real Ronaldo.
yeah. Yeah, keen to get the season done because even though obviously races have been better in the second half of this season, we've not really had that great, I think, of a season overall. But let's hope for something, special today. Looking at the field, we'll start with obviously the fight for the podiums. We know Verstappen is going to win. So the fight for the podium really is between Leclerc, Piastri, Russell, Norris, and probably Perez as well because the Red Bull is so quick. Who do you think will win, who'll finish second and third, and why do you think those certain drivers will finish second and third?
Wait, are you telling me that Oscar Piastri isn't winning the Grand Prix?
Oh, come on.
Of course, Max will win unless he does a Vettel from what year did Vettel randomly crash here at turn 1?
2011.
2011, yeah. Unless he randomly does that. Sorry, that is in no way trying to trigger you, Will, before you get on my case. I think you gotta go with Charles probably in second. I mean, that was a great lap as you were speaking about a little bit earlier. Sort of out of nowhere after that quite poor first run in Q3. And then I'm going to go with Lando in third. I think Lando will be able to get it up into third. Even though Oscar, I think, will have a bit of a stronger performance here. I just don't think he'll be able to hold on to third, and he'll finish probably just behind his teammate, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't be necessarily surprised if that happened. Lando, obviously, we know has more pace in there. If he had not made that mistake at the end of qualifying, he would have been probably third on the grid.
He was Chaz. He was ahead of Verstappen at the time of him spinning.
I don't. I think even with him, even if he didn't make that mistake, I still don't think he would have. I don't think he would have taken pole.
Would have been very close.
Possibly, yeah. But yeah, with Norris, I mean, we have seen this season that he has been a lot quicker than Piastri in the races. It's been probably the most positive thing that Lando has had over Oscar this season. Obviously, Lando does have a superior head-to-head in qualifying, but you look at the average lap time difference between Lando and Oscar in qualifying, it's not, as big as it was with Norris and Ricciardo or anything like that. So yeah, Lando, I think definitely will make progress from P5. Talking of qualifying though, and what happened at the end, how good was Leclerc's lap there at the end of qualifying? In the end, it wasn't quite the purple final set because Russell in the end had it, but an amazing final lap. And would you say at the moment that Leclerc is, based on what we've seen in the last, say, month or so, would you say Leclerc is, at least when it comes to qualifying, is right now the best on the grid in this form?
Yeah, you'd have to say so. I mean, this is sort of what we were seeing right at the start of last season, and what we've seen from Leclerc throughout his career in Formula One, where he's been absolutely ridiculous in qualifying. But of course, we know he does sometimes just make the mistake in the race, which can cost him. But absolutely, there's no doubting his qualifying form at the moment. It's absolutely outrageous.
Yeah, and actually, I think they showed it during the broadcast yesterday, I think, during qualifying, and I was amazed when I saw this. I don't know the exact number of poles that Leclerc has for Ferrari, but I think if they showed on screen that if he had took pole yesterday, that he would have moved into second place, I think, all time for pole positions for Ferrari. And I was like, that can't be true. And I think it is. He's had an incredible amount of pole positions. I think, is it 23 poles or 24, something like that for Ferrari? Yeah, it's around about that. And I don't know why I thought that couldn't be true. Probably because Leclerc, to me, it doesn't feel like he's been around that long. It doesn't feel like he's been around that long even at Ferrari. And it's just hard to believe that he's had that many pole positions for the team. And it just shows you how incredible, when he's absolutely at his best over a single lap, he is without a doubt one of the best, and at the moment is the best with the form he is in. Looking outside of the battle for the podium, we've got Lewis Hamilton back up in 11th place. Obviously, poor qualifying for him. We know why that is. Perez had a bit of a poor session in the end, ending up in 9th. Carlos Sainz ending up in P16. Perez, we know, will make progress from 9th, but with Hamilton and Sainz, what do you see happening for them? Do you think they can make a lot of progress, or do you think they've not quite got a good enough balance with their car to really do much today?
Well, I feel like it's been a sort of a running thing with Lewis now for half of the season, right?
Yeah.
He's had a terrible qualifying session, and then in the race the balance is just so much better, and he's able to pull together a pretty good race. And I mean, he did that. He did that in Vegas last week, where he ended up having a very strong second half of the race. But I think he'll be able to do it again. I think he'll certainly be able to get some good points again today. With Sainz, I'm not as sure. I mean, he's obviously had a bit of a difficult weekend with that crash in FP2,
Yeah.
with the car bottomed out and he went flying off. And then I've seen a lot of drivers being very critical of him uh, with blocking and getting in people's way in quali.
Yeah.
And then Ricardo basically said that it's no surprise that he got impeded, basically, because he does it to everyone else all of the time. So there you go, a little bit of beef going on.
Yeah, we have seen it a lot this year. I remember in Canada, he did a really bad case that where I think to the final chicane, Sainz was basically parked in the middle of the chicane, and the Alpine nearly flew over the top of him. I think though with Ferrari, I don't think the problem is the drivers. I think it's the engineers because it's a regular occurrence with them where Ferrari drivers are getting in the way of others. Because I remember Leclerc's had it a couple times. I think he's had a couple grid penalties this year for blocking. The Ferrari engineers are just hopeless when it comes to letting their drivers know where other cars are. But yeah, Sainz really since that crash, I think has lacked a lot of confidence in the car. And yeah, that also that bump in turn 3, drivers have been complaining about. And also, I think there's a bit of a bump in turn 1 as well, which the drivers really haven't enjoyed. It's Martin Brundle currently interviewing Franz Tost. And I forgot to mention, Franz Tost, obviously the AlphaTauri team principal. This is his final Grand Prix as a team principal. Became the team principal of that team, which back then was Toro Rosso, in 2009. And this is his final Grand Prix. What a career he's had. He's done brilliantly with the team. Unfortunately, has never grabbed that elusive top 5 constructors championship finish, but it's got close a couple times. 2021 was probably the best chance they had. But yeah, he's had a fantastic career, hasn't he, Neb, for the AlphaTauri and obviously Toro Rosso as well.
Yeah, he's been there forever. He's been a staple. He's seen so many good young drivers come through, and I'm just shocked because I swear Brundle let Alan Prost walk by before, as he was too busy going after the Hemsworth brothers, who he let walk past before because he doesn't have a clue who they are. Now he's of course talking to Mr. Sabbatical. Is that Patrice? Is that Pogba and Patrice Eval? Is that where he's going to now? Oh God.
He's now interviewing a golfer on the I think just next to
Yeah.
the I think McLaren team. But yeah, France has done brilliant, and hopefully AlphaTauri, yeah, it is Pogba and Mr. I love this game as they're just stood next to I think the AlphaTauri car or something like that. Also, quickly, one thing I forgot to mention is the result of the Formula 2 season. Obviously, I covered the sprint race yesterday on the channel. In the feature race, Frederick Vesti finished in 3rd place. Théo Pourchaire finished in 5th. And Théo Pourchaire is the champion of Formula 2 in 2023. And even though Vesti has had a really great season, it's impressed a lot of people. I don't think anyone really thought he was going to be a title contender. Teo, great season, and I think overall does deserve the championship. I got to say though, for Vesti, even though qualifying was not good, what a weekend he had. He did the best he could. The sprint win was fantastic, and if you look at some of his wins this year, Vesti has had some really great drives. One of them I remember at Silverstone, where I think the sprint race in the wet, he won by nearly like 20 seconds. He was on another level that day. But yeah, Théo Pourchaire, the champion, and obviously not on the grid for next season. Let's hope he'll be on the grid for 2025. Jack Doohan, by the way, won the feature race, and he does finish 3rd in the championship. I know I've not watched too much Nib of F2, but yeah, who have been the impressive drivers for you for what you've seen of Formula 2 in 2023?
Well, I mean, it's very clear who certainly one of the most exciting talents is, and that's Ollie Behrman.
Yeah.
I mean, some of his performances throughout this season have been very, very impressive. I mean, we've spoken about it for a long time. Poor Chad not being on the grid is utterly ridiculous. He arguably should have been in F1 this season, but yeah, for whatever reason, they decided to stick with Joe. And once again, he's done jack shit. Got battered by a pretty mare Valtteri Bottas this season. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? And yeah, I mean, Vesti's been quite impressive. I've got to tell you, Mercedes do have a lot of very good young drivers, especially compared to Red Bull. I mean, Red Bull have been very strong in the past with all of these drivers coming through, even Ferrari. But now Mercedes, wow, oh wow. As Martin hasn't got a clue who he's surrounded by,
Yeah, and he's now
as
a
Willie
top.
had just walked forward. Is that Sharapova there? It is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah. As you were saying with Mercedes, I think if you look at it, they've probably got the best driver academy at the minute because you've got Vesti, Paul Aaron, you've got obviously Antonelli, who's in Formula Two next year. And their driver academy has been pretty good in the last few years overall. Alpines, of course, they've had quite a talented driver academy in the last few years. Piastri, of course, came through. And then at the moment, you've obviously got Doohan, top three of the F2 championship, and only finished doing, I think, 25 or 27 points behind Paul Chair in the end. So, such a shame that Doohan was not really consistent in the first half of the year, because if he was, I think Doohan possibly could have took the title this year. Obviously, Victor Martins was the F3 champion last year, and I cannot wait for F2 next year because we have got some really good drivers on the grid for next year. Antonelli, who is probably the biggest talent out there outside of Formula One, cannot wait to see what he can do. And obviously, he'll be partnering at Prema Oliver Behrman, and that driver lineup is going to be incredibly exciting to to watch and to see who ends up winning that fight. Of course, two very special young talented drivers, and then obviously you've got other very good drivers out there. Martins, Doohan. I'm expecting Doohan to have another good season, and obviously you've got your other good drivers out there as well, such as Iwasa, who I think is still going to be on the grid for next season. I know Vesti is not going to be on the grid for next season, unfortunately. But yeah, F2 next year should be very, very exciting. But yeah, with what have we got? About 17 minutes to go now until the race starts. What is your top five, Nib, for this final race?
Well, yeah, I nearly got there before, didn't I?
Yeah,
I'm gonna say Verstappen, then shit, who did I? I had Leclerc, Norris, Piastri, and then we'll have George Russell in fifth.
yeah, I won't be surprised. That did end up happening. My top five is almost the same as yours. Verstappen, Leclerc, Piastri, Norris, and then Russell. Let's hope for a good final Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi. Of course, with the newer track, it has made the racing better here, but still, we've never really had a too many great races here at this Yas Marina track, as Martin is just interviewing a couple of the drivers, now interviewing Yuki Tsunoda, who, of course, up in sixth on the grid. Only half a second he was away from pole position. And let's hope he can have a good point scoring finish to the year. And of course, there is another battle that I will get into quickly before the race starts. That will be decided before this final race. Not that it really matters to the drivers, but we have a four-way fight for fourth in the championship, in the Drivers' Championship. Carlos Sainz is in fourth, level on points with Fernando Alonso on 200 points. Sainz only ahead because of he's had a race win. And then Lando Norris is 5 points behind Sainz and Alonso. And then Leclerc a further 7 points behind Norris. So we'll see who ends up finishing 4th. Probably it'll be, I mean, if Sainz can finish in the top like 8, 9, maybe he'll still be able to, if Norris doesn't have a great final Grand Prix, maybe Sainz will still be able to take a final, or the 4th place. But with the way the grid is, it's probably going to be Lando Norris who takes 4th in the championship. And honestly, I think Lando Norris, given how brilliant he's been this year, I think would probably deserve 4th. I honestly think the most, because he has been one of the top probably 3, 4 drivers on the grid in 2023, as they're just outstanding for the anthem. Yeah, we're not too far away from lights out. Let me read out some more comments here if I can before lights out. I couldn't find any. Looney Classic says Zhou will stay in F1 for as long as F1 is trying to grow in China. Get used to drivers coming in based on whatever ethnic group F1 is trying to get money from. A subpar Arab driver is on his way too. I hope that's not going to happen. I mean, it was talked about from a couple, what do you call it? It was talked about between a couple F1 journalists that one of the key reasons behind Zhou being kept for 2024 was because I think Audi wanted to sell more cars in the Asian market, which, yeah, is a dumb reason. I really hope that is not their, their more so their goal when it comes to their Formula One entry, because that is not a good sign going forward. But I really hope that, unless Zhou next year massively improves, which, would be great. I don't think it'll happen, but it would be great if he did do that. I really hope if Zhou next season is still this poor, that he doesn't get yet another chance, because he doesn't deserve to be on the grid as far as I'm concerned. He's just not good enough. As Nib was saying, he has been comfortably beaten by a past his prime Valtteri Bottas. I don't think anyone deserves to be on the grid if you're getting beaten by a past your prime Valtteri Bottas. Not necessarily beaten, but beaten as comfortably as Bottas has beaten him. In qualifying, I think it's been 15-7 or 16 to something. In qualifying, between the two, and in the races, Valtteri has been, pretty clearly quicker and better than Zhou as well. So, see what happens with that. Maybe Teo will be on the grid in 2025. Let's find some other comments here quick.
Yeah, sorry, I've spammed half the chat because I was a fucking idiot. Sorry.
A couple of people saying Nib's mic is too loud. It's probably because he's speaking really close to his mic. That's probably what it is.
I have moved it away, and
Yeah.
I am going to turn it down if I need to.
Yeah.
Rooker's keeping me updated.
Astro Steve earlier saying, so hard to compare different eras though. Fangio won 25 races when there were 8 races per year. Half or more, the field DNF'd every race, and drivers very regularly died. And plus, well, back then, and obviously Fangio benefited from this in one of his title years. I can't remember exactly which one it was. I think the year where he was at Ferrari. But back then, drivers would give their cars up for the team leader, which of course hasn't happened really since the 1950s. But actually, that's one thing I want to quickly go through with you. We won't go through. We're not going to go through the all-time list, but for
here we go.
This season, who would you say your top 5 drivers of 2023 have been from 1st to 5th?
I love how you're doing this when I can barely give you a top five for the upcoming race. I mean Verstappen, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, in second, I think purely for what they've done in the second half of the season, I'd probably go Lando Norris. Hamilton third, even though I don't think Hamilton's been that great. But like he's just done a good enough job, hasn't he? He's going to finish third in the drivers, so um, you can't get, even though Perez is going to finish second in the drivers. There's no way I think you can have him in the top
Yeah.
five.
No way.
Not a chance. Well, it's really close between the battle for fourth with the Ferrari drivers. Would you have probably the Ferrari drivers in fourth and fifth?
As far as I'm concerned, Alonso has to be top 5.
Oh, dude, yeah. Okay, Alonso fourth, probably,
Yeah. I mean,
maybe even third.
if Aston Martin, let's say they were as quick for the whole season as they were, at the start of the year, Alonso would probably be third or even second in the championship right now. So yeah, I think Alonso at minimum should be top 5, and then maybe one of the Ferrari drivers in the other position.
I'd give it purely to Sainz because he's actually won a race this season.
Yeah.
And
Obviously,
because Leclerc's just not been at his usual level until like pretty recently.
yeah. Leclerc, I mean, if you look at this year, I'd say Leclerc overall has been at his best only probably half the time this year, when Carlos, I think most of the time, has been doing the best really he can do with what's been a difficult car, of course, for both drivers to drive this year. Of course, I'll do my driver rankings next weekend, but obviously I'm going to have Max in first place, and obviously Sergio Perez I'm definitely not going to have in the top 5. And as I was saying earlier, I will be doing my rankings for every driver that has raced this season, because I do want to include, not just obviously De Vries, but I do want to include especially Liam Lawson, because I think we've forgotten pretty quickly how great of a couple races he had this year.
I've not. I was literally talking about it in the chat earlier.
I mean, he was after one weekend basically, he was right on the pace of Tsunoda and was quicker than Tsunoda in a couple sessions. Obviously scored points in Singapore, got into Q3 in Singapore. So yeah, Liam Lawson, fingers crossed, he'll be on the grid very soon as well. And you would imagine he'll be on the grid in the AlphaTauri in no later than 2025, but we'll see.
Should be next season.
Yeah. As right, let me find a couple final comments before we get into this Grand Prix. Astro Steve was saying rankings are subjective. Okay to have opinions on different ones and weigh different things differently. Stats versus machinery versus teammates. Yeah. Again, we're all going to come to different conclusions. But yeah, I'll give my rankings next Sunday, and I'll try and give us a best justification for each one as I can, as well as let's I think finish up this poll in the chat before we get into this Grand Prix. I asked you guys who is most likely to finish on the podium today at the 2023 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. 273 votes, and 50% of you have gone for Charles Leclerc, who is most likely to be on the podium. Norris second, Piastri third, and Russell in fourth in that poll. Well, let's now get into a couple final things before lights out in this final Grand Prix. And we'll start, of course, with the championship standings. Max Verstappen, of course, the champion of 2023. Perez and Hamilton in second and third, respectively, have wrapped up those positions. And yeah, the fight for fourth, as you can see, only 12 points separating four drivers. We'll see who ends up finishing in fourth, as it is currently Sainz fourth, Alonso fifth, Norris sixth, Leclerc seventh, Russell in eighth. Russell cannot move up in the standings. Piastri ninth, neither can he. Lance Stroll in 10th. Lance should secure 10th in the championship, even though he doesn't deserve it. And then on the constructors' side, Red Bull, of course, the champions. Mercedes only 4 points clear of Ferrari going into this final Grand Prix. Most likely, Ferrari will finish in second, but you just never know what can happen. McLaren fourth. They are only 11 points clear of Aston Martin and need to make sure they don't have, as bad of a result as, say they had in Vegas, so they can make sure to secure a fourth place finish. Aston Martin fifth, Alpine in sixth, Williams is seventh and only 7 points clear of AlphaTauri. And as it stands, if Yuki Tsunoda does finish the race where he's starting, then AlphaTauri will finish in seventh. But it is, of course, a big ask for Tsunoda to do that. Alfa Romeo in ninth, only 5 points behind AlphaTauri, and Haas in 10th. Of course, if they finish the race where they're starting, they will go up to ninth. But realistically, that probably won't happen. But let's get into, guys, your starting grid for the final race of 2023. On the front row, yet again, Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. On the second row, it is two former Formula 2 champions, Oscar Piastri and George Russell. On the third row, Lando Norris and Yuki Tsunoda. What a qualifying from Tsunoda. On the fourth row, Fernando Alonso and Nico Hülkenberg. And completing the top 10, Sergio Perez and former Red Bull driver Pierre Gasly. Just outside of the top 10, you've got Lewis Hamilton, who has won the most, or has the most wins here in Abu Dhabi of 5. Esteban Ocon, 12th on the grid. 13th and 14th, Lance Stroll and Alexander Albon. 15th and 16th, Daniel Ricciardo and Carlos Sainz. Two drivers that I don't think, or actually no, Sainz has got a podium here in Abu Dhabi. I was going to say, they both haven't got a podium here in Abu Dhabi ever. But yeah, 15th and 16th, we'll see what they can do from there. Penultimate row of the grid, the two Scandinavians of Kevin Magnussen and Valtteri Bottas. And on the back row of the grid, Zhou Guanyu and Logan Sargent. But let's now get into this Grand Prix. Of course, I put the tyre graphics there for the moment. That is not what everyone is starting on tyres-wise. I will update it once I know what people are starting on. But, yeah. We'll find that out in a moment. And we have seen, and we saw on the F2 sprint yesterday, we saw it obviously a couple of years ago famously at this Grand Prix. Second on the grid, it is likely that you can get into the lead into turn one, but you do need a really good getaway straight away to be able to do that. Of course, the inside line, where second place on the grid is the less grippy line, as there is on the TV broadcast. Carlos Sainz starting in P16. See whether he will go for an aggressive starting tyre. There is Lando Norris in 5th. Lando has never finished on the podium here, so if he can do so. Russell, of course, has only had one podium in 2023. Oscar Piastri, of course, he had his first F1 podium earlier this season at Suzuka. McLaren second, still looking for his first win since July of 2022. And Max Verstappen looking to win his 19th, will take his 19th victory of 2023. And that'd be 19 wins in 22 races. As all the teams step away, tyre blankets are off as the formation lap is about to begin. Looks like almost everyone is on a set of mediums. And the formation lap begins right now. Verstappen and Leclerc pull away. Yeah, they should show in a moment who is on what compounds. And yeah, everybody on the medium compound except for Lance Stroll, Carlos Sainz and Valtteri Bottas. Those 3 drivers are on the hard compound tyre. So let me just update that. Yeah, Bottas on the hard. Sainz on the hard. And Stroll on the hard tyre. Of course, that will benefit those drivers later in the race with having fresher and softer tyres. As Verstappen now down the first DRS zone straight, just warming his tyres up. Famously, of course, down this straight, Kimi Räikkönen didn't need to do that many years ago. Verstappen has
That's
won.
10 years ago now, where Kimi had his radio outburst.
Over 10 years.
No, sorry, it was 11. It was 11. Oh my god.
I was actually saying on Thursday with my preview that what was it with Alonso? His last podium in Abu Dhabi was that race 11 years ago. It feels
Dude,
like
how cooked was the stat about Max having more wins in the past 2 seasons than Alonso does in his career? Like what?
Oh yeah, that was so depressing. And I saw that Alonso meme of him staring off into the distance, that Brazil thing.
From Brazil, tweet.
Yeah.
But
I've just showed on screen. Yeah, this is actually the 15th edition of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Red Bull have been very successful here. Obviously won the championship here, the driver's title in 2010. They've won here in the last 3 years, and won here also in 2009, 2010, and 2013. Hemsworth brothers in the Mercedes hospitality area, getting ready to watch this Grand Prix as Max Verstappen already onto the starting grid. Doing a couple burnouts, lining up on pole as Hamilton has only just come through the exit of the penultimate corner. Hopefully the balance of his car is better today, because yesterday he was very unhappy with the handling of his car. As the top 10 pretty much just about now lining up onto the grid. There are the Ferrari mechanics. Big day ahead for them to secure second in the championship, which would be great for them, considering at the summer break point of the season, Ferrari were 4th in the championship. As Logan Sargent now lines up, and we are ready for the final race of 2023. The lights are on. It's 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. And it's go in Abu Dhabi. And Charles Leclerc gets a good start. Will he go for the inside line? He tries to, but Max Verstappen has superior grip and just goes right round the outside as Norris and Russell side by side into turn 2 and 3. Brilliant from Lando Norris, and he's up to 4th place. That was brilliant stuff. As in the background, we've got, I think, Magnussen and Stroll close together. As Sergio Perez doesn't look like he's had a great start, I've got to say. As now the run down to turn 6 begins, and Leclerc's got a great run on Max Verstappen. It goes for the inside line, and he gets the move done, does he? Not quite. Verstappen holds the outside line, but that means Leclerc will get the better run on the exit. Up to now turn 9 with the two McLarens close behind. And Leclerc going to go for it again. Will he go for the outside line? He tries to, but Max kept it nicely together. But Verstappen just about keeps the lead. And it is Verstappen leading from Leclerc 2nd, Piastri 3rd, Norris 4th, Russell in 5th. As they just are now coming through the final few corners of the opening lap. Great opening lap between those two up front, Verstappen and Leclerc. But Max has kept it and now should be able to pull away as we're now on to lap 2 of 58. Verstappen leads from Leclerc, Piastri, Norris, Russell, Tsunoda, Alonso, and then Gasly is 8th. Hamilton is up to 9th. And then you've got Perez 10th, Ocon in 11th, Stroll up to 12th. Hulkenberg's had a terrible start. He's gone from 8th to 13th. And then you've got Carlos Sainz up in 14th, Ricciardo in 15th, Bottas 16th, Albon 17th, Joe in 18th, Magnussen 19th, and Sargent in 20th. There's Norris here getting quite close to Piastri down the straight. Will he send it into the chicane? He thought about it, but Piastri, thankfully, is late enough on the brakes as Magnussen has had a very poor start. Now down to last place, as Piastri getting close to the clear. And Max Verstappen already 1.3 seconds clear. So Max super quick out front as Sainz has just overtaken Hulkenberg for 13th. And the two McLarens right on top of the Ferrari of Leclerc. So the two hard tyre runners of Stroll and Sainz are 12th and 13th. And then you've got obviously Bottas on the hard in 16th. We're now lap 3. And yeah, Max Verstappen is 1.3 seconds clear as it now settles down. Brilliant racing there between Verstappen and Leclerc. And Leclerc, I thought, was going to get the position, but Max held on so well.
Yeah, it was a fantastic opening lap, and I mean that's always been one of the better things about this track is the opening lap, is that you're able to stay really close. But Max was just able to get such a big gap through the final sector with the silly hotel where the dirty air can't go anywhere but stay in front of all of the drivers.
As Verstappen has actually had a really poor first sector. I don't know where he's made a mistake, but as Leclerc is back within a second of him, as Perez down the inside of Hamilton at turn 6. And Sergio Perez is up to 9th. And of course, a much faster car. But yeah, Verstappen all of a sudden lost 0.6 of a second. So maybe we'll see a replay of that at some point. But the two McLaren still close behind Leclerc. Here's a replay of the start of Nib. I'll let you take us through it once they get to it.
Yeah, and as you correctly mentioned, Verstappen did lose 0.3 in the first sector for whatever reason, which then of course flowed on to him having a very poor middle sector, as I'm just getting to the race start now. And yeah, as you called, Leclerc had a pretty good start. Verstappen had to come across, but he couldn't cover him off completely, and he had to leave a little bit of space, but still got a fantastic exit as Norris was able to get past Russell very nicely before turn 3 as they headed up towards turn 4. And then, yeah, I think Perez and Hamilton were having a good go at it. As Stroll, I seen I think that was Stroll dive bomb half the field, or attempted to, as then Leclerc on the slipstream of Verstappen has still went up the inside, even whilst Verstappen did defend the inside for the most part, but Verstappen able to just drive around the outside and get a much better exit. So we're now on board with Checo Perez. As thank you, Chris Medland, for tweeting out, as Lando Norris has passed Oscar Piastri as we're watching the replays. Thank you, F1. Brilliant job there. And yeah, God, that got a little bit close between Hamilton and Perez, didn't it? But did Hamilton overtake him off the track there, Chaz?
Well, I actually just looked away at the wrong moment, so I'm not quite sure because I was just quickly putting Norris up to 3rd place. A brilliant start from Lando, going around the outside of turn 2 and then the inside for turn 3. And here's a replay, yeah, of Norris passing Piastri and Oscar. Defended, but not super strongly, down into turn 6. There was a simple enough overtake in the end as Max Verstappen now 1.6 seconds clear. If Hamilton did go off the track to keep any position, doesn't matter now though, as Perez is ahead of Hamilton. And Leclerc, I've got to say, is, I'm not going to say in trouble, but he's got a lot of cars in a train behind him of Norris, Piastri, Russell, Tsunoda, Alonso, Gasly, Perez, Hamilton, Ocon, Stroll. So the Ferrari of Leclerc is not very quick right now.
I mean, he's it's not like he's a million miles behind Verstappen, Jazz, to be fair.
True, but I mean, I would have expected. Tsunoda, Alonso, Gasly. I would have expected them to drop off quite a bit, but for some reason, they're all staying pretty close. As we're just looking at a visor cam of Russell, and yeah, they're just in a holding pattern behind Leclerc. As the top 10 is Verstappen leading from Leclerc by about 1.3 seconds. And then Norris is third within a second of Leclerc. And then Piastri fourth, Russell fifth, Tsunoda sixth, Alonso seventh, Gasly eighth, Perez ninth, Hamilton 10th as we're about to begin lap 6. We did see, though, in qualifying that from first place all the way down to 18th, there was only 1.3 seconds covering the entire field throughout the entirety of qualifying. And even in Q1, I think there was only 0.6 or 0.7 of a second covering the entire field. So
yeah,
very
from P1 to P17, I think it was 0.6 in Q1.
Yeah, so for anyone who thinks Formula One is not competitive at all, that's a slap in the face. As Kevin Magnussen has pitted, of course, had a terrible start, and he's now going to try something different. As here's a replay of Magnussen with, that's how Logan Sargent got past him on the first lap. I think he went wide at turn 12, and Sargent went round the outside. So Magnussen 20th and last, and on the hard compound tyre. As Max is not pulling away super quickly from Leclerc, I must say. And
I mean, you've got to say that the grid's getting closer over one lap, but when it comes to a whole race distance, it's a bit of a different story.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do know, obviously, Red Bull do try to maximise their car, the races, of course, with the way they set the car up, which is why they can be seemingly not very fast on a Saturday, given their results on a Sunday. As we're on lap 7, and Verstappen now 1.6 seconds clear of Leclerc. Leclerc, though, has had a bit of a better end to that lap a moment ago, because he's nearly a second clear of Norris. Piastri over a second behind Lando, and has got Russell only half a second behind. So Piastri in a bit of trouble now, because he won't have the DRS assistance to help him along. Lando does have DRS assistance on Leclerc, thankfully, as Russell looks like he's going to get closer to Piastri as they're coming down to turn 6, and Piastri, I think, is going to have to try and defend. Oh, not quite. Russell just wasn't close enough for the end. But, Russell really starting to harry. McLaren's got a great exit, Russell, from the chicane. And I think up to turn 9, Russell is going to get this move done. Round the outside, Russell goes. Does he get the move done? He goes for the outside line, which is not necessarily the best line. And Piastri keeps the position just about. And Russell just went a bit too wide. And that's why Piastri kept it. But it looks to me inevitable that Russell will pass Piastri in the next couple laps, because Russell does look quicker. As AlphaTauri telling Ricciardo, possible tear off in one of the front ducts. We are checking. We may have to take some actions. I'll keep you posted. And then Daniel responding, okay, understood. That's not a good start for him. Lap 8. But, Ricciardo is now pitted. So I wonder if they now have to remove that for him, as turn 7 incident between Zhou and Albon noted for forcing another driver off the track. I did see that Zhou had passed Albon, but we haven't seen any of it, on TV. Of
course not.
As Leclerc still got Norris within a second of him. Leclerc, though, still not letting Max get away. The gap is still 1.5, 1.6 seconds, so he's doing well. Leclerc and Ferrari overall are doing well. Russell not as close to Piastri on this occasion, but still hunting him down, and quite a few cars behind him with DRS as well. Tsunoda, Alonso, Gasly, Perez, Hamilton, Ocon, and Stroll. Carlos Sainz, I have to say, is not having a good race. In 13th and is nearly 3 seconds behind Stroll. Not quite sure why he's so slow right now, Carlos, because, I mean, Stroll, with his hard tyres, he looks like he's doing just fine. But, yeah, Sainz, not so much as Ricciardo. Yeah, 19th now. And on the hard compound tyre. And let me just update that, obviously, Bottas is on the hard instead of Zhou. As we're on lap 9 of 58. The pit window for the medium tyre runners will open in about 10 to 12 laps from now. So still quite a way away we are from the pit stop phase, and according to Pirelli, it should be a one-stop Grand Prix. As down the first DRS zone, Russell closing as Perez in the background trying to go for a move on Gasly, and I thought Perez was going to go deep and slam into the side of Gasly like he's done a couple times this season with other drivers, and thankfully he didn't do that. But what's not helping Perez here is the cars ahead have got DRS as Russell tries for the outside line again for turn 9, but it does the same again and goes too wide. Piastri keeps 4th place. Russell is not able to have the grip to go for the middle of turn 9 so he can keep 4th place. And this is really costing him as Leclerc is now catching Max Verstappen. The gap down to 1.3 seconds on lap 10 of 58. Maybe Ferrari have got the pace to fight for victory here. Perez, yeah, as I was saying, what's not helping Perez is the cars ahead have DRS, so it's harder for him to overtake these cars than it would normally be. No further investigation for Zhou and Albon, forcing another driver off the track. Still haven't seen what it was all about, so can't comment on it. I have to say, like you said earlier, it is really poor they didn't show Norris and Piastri live. I know it wasn't exactly an amazing overtake, but it was a very important one. So yeah, that was...
It's for 3rd bloody place.
Wasn't there one here, was it 2019, where there was like loads of overtakes for like 7th, 8th at the end, and they just didn't show any of it. They just showed, I think, the fireworks. Something like that.
I think I remember that. Yeah, I mean that was a while ago, but I think that wouldn't surprise me if that happened. That's for sure.
I think
I must say, Oscar's pace hasn't been the best here, but he's defended very, very well, making sure he doesn't give up the inside line.
Yeah, he's doing the best he can, and as you say, his pace is not very hot at the minute. As on lap 11, he's 2.2 seconds behind his teammate. That's Max Verstappen now 1.5 seconds clear of Leclerc. So Max pulling away on that lap, but still close between two. As Russell has got to pass Piastri really the next couple laps because his race is being really hurt here. Being held up by Piastri as Piastri rear end sliding a bit on the exit of the hairpin. And Russell, DRS open. As McLaren telling Oscar, this is good, Oscar, defending well, tyre management looks good. Not sure the position in a moment will look good as Russell forces Piastri to lock up and go wide through the chicane, and surely Russell will get the superior exit and will overtake Piastri for 4th properly this time. And there you go, round the outside, DRS open, and Russell is up to 4th. And I mean, Piastri now is going to fall into the clutches of Tsunoda and Alonso. Look how quick AlphaTauri are, right up there with McLaren and Mercedes. AlphaTauri have had such a good end to the year. Of course, were super quick in Mexico and Brazil a few weeks ago. But yeah, was inevitable, that move.
Yeah, that's my fault for saying he's been defending well, and then he needlessly locks up.
But at this rate, I mean, as he's now, he's really dropping into the clutches of Tsunoda. What can McLaren do here to help Oscar? Maybe pit him a bit earlier?
Perhaps, but I mean, I think the issue there was he lost the DRS to Lando, and it made him very vulnerable. And he's already lost the DRS to Russell, as he had a very poor final sector. Oh dear.
Well, actually, no, he's got DRS open, so he's just about kept inside a second. But Russell, you would imagine, will pull over a second clear soon enough. Yeah, very impressive from Tsunoda there, as Perez now forcing Pierre Gasly to move offline into the chicane. And can Perez get a better exit to finally get up to 8th place? He's got to help his race. Gasly doesn't have DRS, so really Perez is surely got to get this done round the outside, and he does. Sergio Perez is up to 8th. Next target, Fernando Alonso in 7th. As now Lewis Hamilton will try and pass Pierre Gasly. But, Leclerc still only 1.3, 1.4 seconds behind Max. And Leclerc actually pulling away from Norris. The gap between Leclerc and Norris is nearly 3 seconds now. So, Ferrari's pace is really impressive. A lot of it's been in the final
sector.
Yeah. As Hamilton really closing there on Gasly. As Alonso has pitted. That is a surprise. Normally Aston Martin go longer on their tyres, but they've decided to go early.
Stop.
Go and hard compound tyres. Not the greatest pit stop, but still good nonetheless. And Alonso should come out, I think, in probably 18th. Yeah, 18th place. So Perez now up to 7th, Gasly 8th, Hamilton 9th, Ocon 10th. And earlier pit stops than we were expecting. Because again, the pit window Pirelli thought would open lap 20. Only lap 13 now. Piastri now dropped a second and a half behind Russell. And of course, Aston Martin, they do have a car out there of Stroll out there on hard tyres. So they do have that data, and clearly keen they are to get onto that compound.
And Danny Rick has been very fast on the hard tyres since he's pitted.
Yeah, clearly.
Fastest car on track at the moment is Ricciardo in 19th.
Wow. As Claire's still keeping the gap at about a second and a half. Piastri not too far ahead of Tsunoda, and Piastri does decide, or McLaren decide to pit him, which I think is the right decision. So Piastri pits from 5th. Will go on to the hard compound tyre. And McLaren have been so good on the pit stops this year. And that is another good pit stop. 2.7 seconds as Hülkenberg and Zhou pit as well. So we'll see where Piastri comes out in terms of where he is compared to Alonso. Should come out ahead, but it will be close. And oh no, Alonso, there he is. And Piastri, yes, just about hangs on ahead. But Alonso's now going to have hotter tyres and will have DRS to try and overtake Piastri. As Alonso gets a decent exit from the hairpin. So Zhou down in 20th, Hülkenberg now in 19th. Alonso DRS. Will he go for the move on Piastri? He feigns a move for the inside. Oh, Piastri locks up again and goes a bit wider than he ideally wants. Will that give Alonso what he needs to try and get up to what would be a net 5th place? Got the DRS again into turn 9, but he's not close enough. No. To get the move done. So it is, Hülkenberg 19th, Magnussen 18th, Ricciardo 17th, Alonso 16th, and Piastri is in 15th place after that pit stop. Of course, is one of the earlier drivers to pit. As here comes Lando Norris. Pitting for McLaren. And oh, not a good pit stop. And Russell has got ahead of him in the pit stop. A pit stop race between McLaren and Mercedes. McLaren got it wrong. A 5.1 second stop. And Russell is up into a net third position. As Piastri going to be very close here with Norris. But Lando just about comes out ahead. But Russell benefiting there.
Right. What a commentator's curse by us for the two McLarens.
Yeah. As Lando, now in 14th and Russell in 13th position. Everyone from 13th down is on the hard compound tyre. As Lewis Hamilton here trying to pass, Gasly, but Gasly hanging on ahead. Hamilton having an absolute disaster Grand Prix, racing around in the midfield. But it is currently Verstappen leading, Leclerc second, Leclerc about 1.8 seconds behind, Tsunoda third, Perez fourth, Gasly fifth, Hamilton sixth, Ocon seventh, Stroll eighth, Sainz ninth, Bottas 10th, Albon 11th, Sargent 12th. And let me just quickly update who is on what tyres. We've got most drivers now on the hard compound tyre. So let me update that. In a replay, I think, of Hamilton trying to overtake the Alpine. But, the hard tyre, clearly the best race tyre, which is not really a surprise.
No, so Hamilton actually did hit the back of Gasly there. Just pushing him along.
As Hamilton now pits and is he also pitted along with Esteban Ocon and Logan Sargent, and Hamilton has come out all the way down in 15th. Sargent now down in 20th. So we've got Ocon now down in 16th place, and then Hamilton in 15th. So Ricciardo has had a very good pit stop phase now. Of course, he's on older tyres now compared to a lot of people that have pitted, but he has jumped ahead of Hamilton and is in a net top 10 position now. As Russell,
told you, man, he was flying.
As Russell now up to 9th place, and Ricciardo having a good race, which is good to see. And of course, the car pretty quick this weekend. As we're on lap 17, as Max Verstappen pits first, was only a couple seconds ahead of Leclerc, as Hamilton and Ocon very close here, and Ocon having a right go at Lewis Hamilton. But it's now Leclerc leading, Tsunoda second, Perez third, Gasly fourth, Stroll fifth, and Max Verstappen comes out in 7th place on the hard compound tyre. Alexander Albon is pitted. Albon, I think, will come out in 19th place. So, right, let me just update that. Lance Stroll is on the hard tyre. So is Sainz. Just a replay of the slow pit stop, and the left rear tyre just couldn't get the nut tightened up.
So when Hamilton slightly tapped Gasly in the rear end.
Yeah,
they're investigating that.
Yeah.
It's been noted. Why are they noting that?
No idea, to be honest. But Hamilton is really slow after this pit stop, because Ocon is now going to have another go at Hamilton up to turn 9, as Hamilton has to defend the inside or the middle of the track. And Ocon, unfortunately, not close enough, but what an awful race Lewis Hamilton is having. Qualifying did in 11th place, the first time ever here in Abu Dhabi he qualified outside the top 10, as Leclerc has now pitted on lap 18, so has Perez, so has Gasly, and Leclerc 2.8 second stop. And where is he in relation to Verstappen? He has come out behind. Don't know how close he is to him, though. So we've now got Tsunoda in the lead And the only driver now, Tsunoda, on the medium compound tyre. And then it's Stroll second, Sainz third, Verstappen is fourth and 3.3 seconds clear of Leclerc. And Leclerc really needs Sainz, his teammate, to hold up Verstappen. As here is Russell passing Bottas down the inside into turn 6, and Russell right behind Leclerc. But remember, Leclerc has much fresher tyres, so he will pull away in a moment. So it's Leclerc 5th, Russell 6th, Bottas 7th, Norris 8th, Piastri 9th, Alonso 10th, Ricciardo 11th, Perez is 12th, Hamilton 13th, Ocon 14th, Gasly 15th, Hulkenberg 16th, Magnussen 17th, Zhou 18th, Albon 19th, and Sargent 20th. Yeah, everybody is on the hard tyre except for Yuki Tsunoda, who is still out there and has just completed lap 18 and is the leader. What a race he is having, and what a race AlphaTauri are having. Very good pace from them.
Sonoda's had a ridiculously good this weekend and didn't get enough praise from some sections of Twitter for his performance yesterday.
Absolutely. Was an unbelievable lap to put him on the third row. And he's 5.5 seconds clear of Stroll, and absolutely no reason not to just stay out there and extend this stint as Max Verstappen overtakes Carlos Sainz for third.
George Russell's having a fantastic start to this stint, Chaz. I must say, he's not that far behind Leclerc.
Yeah, only 1.5 seconds, and not even that far away from Verstappen, really. So yeah, Russell having a good race, and what he's having so far is the race he had a week ago that he threw away by turning into Max Verstappen. Hopefully doesn't do anything like that the rest of this Grand Prix, because a podium is absolutely on, and he is in a net third place as Norris is past Bottas, as Tsunoda starts another lap, not pitting yet, and on lap 20 of 58, and this will lose him positions on track when he does pit, but he will have quite a bit fresher tyres, and if the car is still quick, and fantastically quick when he comes out from his pit stop, as it's been so far, then Tsunoda will be driver to look out for second half of this race. As now Piastri, next man to try and pass the Alfa Romeo Valtteri Bottas. And Lance Stroll in second, who hasn't pitted yet, starting on the hard tyres. He's another driver to look out for. He's actually catching Tsunoda by a few tenths of a second, as Piastri easily passes Bottas for 8th. As Perez has just overtaken Ricciardo for 11th. But yeah, the net order at the minute, as hold on, let's just see if Alonso here can pass Bottas. Bottas is just going to let him go. Yeah, Alonso up to 9th place. So the net top 10 at the minute is Verstappen is the real leader, and then Leclerc second, Russell third, Norris fourth, Piastri 5th, Alonso 6th, and then it should be Perez 7th, and then given the pace Tsunoda's doing at the minute, he may still come out ahead of Hamilton. It will be close though.
I was about to say, what's the pit delta?
I can't remember. I think it's 20, 23, 24 seconds.
Yeah, he'd be right out around Hamilton, Ocon, as at the moment.
Sergio Perez does the fastest lap of 129.1. Of course, though, he'll have a lot fresher tyres, so he should be able to just overtake them pretty comfortably. As Leclerc now easily going to pass Carlos Sainz for 4th place. Carlos not having a good race, to be honest. Is even though he's up in 5th, his pace on that compound compared to Stroll ahead of him is not very good. Going to take something special for him to get a great result, as here comes Perez. Or is that Verstappen? It's Verstappen overtaking Lance Stroll for second, as no further action for the noted incident of Hamilton and Gasly, as we were saying. No idea why it was noted. See if Tsunoda decides to do another lap. If he does, then really, at the end of lap 22, he should come into the pits. And he's now, he's going to start lap 22. So probably at the end of this lap, he should come in for a new set of tyres, because I think probably going to start losing a bit too much time from now on. Is Tsunoda. As
he'll come out right between the Alpines if he pits on this lap.
He'll keep him in a position that is kind of still top 10 once everything shakes out. As Perez does another fastest lap, a 1:28.9. Perez looking very quick. No surprise, given the car he's driving. As here comes George Russell, easily passing Carlos Sainz for P5. And Russell only 2 seconds away from Leclerc ahead. So Russell looking good. And at the moment, Ferrari, as, hold on, Daniel Ricciardo dive bombing his way past Valtteri Bottas for 11th place. And now Lewis Hamilton will try to overtake his former teammate, as Mercedes telling Lewis, second quickest car last lap, you're quick. And Lewis responding, okay, thanks, Toto. So maybe it was actually Toto giving him that message, as Ricciardo almost had Bottas coming back at him, but kept the position. Now Hamilton being seriously held up, as Yuki Tsunoda finally pits. What a stint, though, from Yuki. Let's see where he will come out.
Yeah, very, very impressive.
As Lance Stroll pits as well. Brilliant pit stop. 2.5 seconds for the AlphaTauri crew. And Tsunoda will probably, come out behind. Yeah, he's going to come out behind Bottas and Hamilton and come out behind Ocon, will he? No, he comes out just ahead. So that is worked out brilliantly for AlphaTauri. So it's Verstappen leading, Leclerc now second, Russell up in third. As Lando Norris now passes Carlos Sainz. So Norris now up in fourth. And it's Sainz in fifth. And then Piastri in sixth, as Lewis Hamilton has just overtaken Valtteri Bottas. Ricciardo now up to ninth because of the pit stops there of Stroll and Tsunoda. Stroll is now in 15th place. And Stroll has gone on to another set of hard tyres. So Stroll is committed to the two-stop strategy. To be honest, looks like everybody is on a two-stopper. As Tsunoda passes Bottas. So Yuki Tsunoda is up in 11th place. And literally everyone on the hard tyre.
I was about to say, I mean, the only driver that could be doing a one-stop is Tsunoda.
Yeah, possibly. Depends how quick, though, he can be in these next few laps, as Carlos Sainz now pits. I mean, Pirelli did say that if you pit between lap 20 and 26 from the medium to the hard, you should be able to get to the end. So it's viable, but whether it will be quick enough for him, we'll have to see. As very good pit stop for Ferrari, 2.1 seconds for Carlos Sainz.
Is that a Ferrari record?
Quite possibly. As Carlos will come out in 16th place, I believe. And also Sainz, comes out on hard tyres. So almost everyone will probably be on a two-stopper, as Ocon now passes Bottas for 11th place. So now everybody is pitted. Here is your top 10 as we're nearly halfway through the final Grand Prix of the season. Max Verstappen leads by nearly 5 seconds from Charles Leclerc. Russell in third, Norris fourth, Piastri fifth, Alonso just behind Piastri in sixth, Perez right behind Alonso in 7th, Ricciardo 8th, Hamilton within a second of Ricciardo in 9th, and Yuki Tsunoda in P10. AlphaTauri currently heading for 5 points, which is unfortunately for them not enough to move up to 7th in the championship. But there is still quite a long way to go in this Grand Prix. As, Piastri for 5th under serious pressure now from Alonso and Perez. Alonso's dropped back a bit further though now, as Sergio Perez really, really quick and needs to get past Alonso really on this lap if he's going to try and finish on the podium today. He's got the DRS open.
Oh, sorry. We'll come back to that later.
As Alonso not even fighting Perez there. So Perez up to 6th place. And we'll be quickly getting after Piastri. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, Yuki Tsunoda's second Japanese driver to ever lead a Formula 1 Grand Prix. Who was the other one? And at what Grand Prix?
Oh. It has to be. It is Kobayashi, isn't it?
Nope.
Oh. Sato.
Takuma Sato. Yep.
I'm trying to think what race though. I'm not sure. It was in 2004. Yeah.
2004 at the European Grand Prix.
Right. Yeah, I knew it was one of them. 2004. Yeah, nearly 20 years. And Tsunoda, you have to say, really improved on what he was like in his first F1 season, where he was very raw, very inconsistent. We knew there was good performance there, but it didn't seem like he could really deliver it a lot of the time. But getting better and better every year. And had a brilliant season as Tsunoda.
People know from F2, if you watch Tsunoda in F2, we knew that he was capable of these performances. Fantastic driver.
And as I think someone in the chat said yesterday, I mean, based on the way he's performing, the way he's been performing this season, if he keeps this up next year, then if anyone's going to replace Sergio Perez, then maybe, Tsunoda's name seriously has to be considered. I don't think he will ever drive for Red Bull because I don't think they consider him as an option, but I think really they should, because he's had a brilliant year as he has passed his teammate and he's now up to 9th place, Tsunoda, as we've got Stroll up to 11th, Ocon 12th, Gasly 13th, Bottas now down to 14th. Carlos Sainz still in 16th place. Albon has just overtaken Zhou, 17th. And here's a replay of Gasly passing Bottas for P13. But, it'll be interesting with Tsunoda to see if he quickly gets after Lewis Hamilton, if we just saw a replay there of him passing his teammate. And yes, Tsunoda only 2 seconds behind, so we'll see what he can do against the struggling Lewis Hamilton. It's now Sergio Perez right on the back of Piastri. Not having a good day. And Perez inevitably will get this overtake done. It's just a matter of when, unfortunately. As the Red Bull a lot quicker down the straights with DRS. Not quick enough, though, just yet to overtake. But once they show the gaps again, I will let you guys know how far Perez is away from the podium, because, of course, that is what he's fighting for. As
Perez 7 seconds away from the podium.
Right, so at this pace, if he passes Piastri in the next lap or so, as we've got, 30 laps to go, Perez, if he keeps this pace up, he should finish on the podium. And maybe even in second place, because Leclerc is not lapping as quickly as he was in the first stint compared to Verstappen and even compared to Russell. Perez 0.6 of a second behind as they come down to the hairpin. And Perez, how close he can now get. As need to update that Kevin Magnussen has pitted again, and he's down 20th once again. As Perez sends it down the inside of Piastri. And Perez is up to 5th place. Piastri not defending because he knows the Red Bull is way too quick for him. So Perez up to 5th as Lando Norris, the next target, is 4 seconds ahead of him. That is definitely catchable before the next pit stop, as Carlos Sainz has just overtaken Valtteri Bottas. I don't think Bottas has pitted yet. So, Alfa Romeo, wild strategy. Carlos, yeah, simple enough move for him. As Max Verstappen now lap 29, 6 seconds clear. And has been said before that Ferrari do struggle on the hard tyres, and you can really see it. Because on the mediums, Ferrari were lapping around the same speed as Red Bull, and now nowhere near as quick as Red Bull. But we now got Lance Stroll within a second of Ricciardo in the fight for the last points-paying position. But as we are halfway through this final Grand Prix, just want to say quickly, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Because, of course, we'll be doing plenty of watch-alongs in 2024. Obviously, pre-season testing and then all of the Grand Prix next season. So make sure to subscribe, bottom right of the screen. You can do it right there. And if you have not hit the like button yet, as Stroll passes Ricciardo for 10th, make sure to do so. We are on 94 likes. Let's try and get over 100 likes if we can by the end of this Grand Prix. As Ricciardo, I think, probably be best for AlphaTauri to pit him again very soon for another set of hard tyres, given that he's been kind of forced into this strategy. Of course, falling away pretty quickly now, the older tyres.
It's not too bad. He's lapping around about the same pace as the Alpines. I think if you can extend it out another 5 laps or so and he can go to the hards to the end, I think Ricciardo could have a pretty good second half of this race because his pace has been pretty good. Yeah, considering the messed up sort of strategy that he's been forced onto.
Yeah, and well, on reflection, it's probably worked out better, that strategy, than what they were probably going to go for originally. Because it's got him.
But what he did pit on lap 7, didn't he? So
yeah,
he's doing what the F2 drivers were, pitting as early as they could for their mandatory stop earlier on in the feature race.
As Valtteri Bottas has just pitted. I presume he'll be going on to a set of maybe mediums. Given we've only got 28 laps to go, but probably it'll be hards again. Even though, oh no, it is a set of mediums. So Valtteri doesn't have to pit again, but he might have to because I don't think mediums are going to be that great to do that many laps. So,
maybe in the core attempts they might be okay, but we'll see.
Sergio Perez, by the way, not catching Lando Norris. The gap is remaining about just over 4 seconds. So Perez not having a good time at the minute. As,
they are catching Russell though.
Yeah, Norris just a couple seconds now behind Russell, and Russell has very slightly dropped a few tenths to Leclerc. But yeah, looking at the field, there's nobody within a second of anybody, so we've got just a bit of a lull now before I think the next round of pit stops. We've got Alonso a second and a half behind Piastri. Tsunoda is still about 2.2 seconds behind Hamilton. And now showing Hamilton on the broadcast. Lance Stroll is 3 seconds behind Tsunoda and on fresher tyres, so we'll see what he can do. Lance does actually have the fastest lap currently. And now Ocon has just got within a second of Ricciardo. But yeah, should hot up again at the next round of pit stops, because at the minute I think we're just in a part of the race where drivers are just trying to eke their tyres out so they don't have to pit too early for the final pit stop. I mean, some drivers might go to the end, such as Yuki Tsunoda, but I think there's definitely going to be some. Definitely Oscar Piastri will be pitting again in this Grand Prix. You're on lap 32. Oscar is nearly done 20 laps on those hard tyres already. We've got, just over 25 laps to go. As Alonso trying to catch. As Ricciardo now does pit. And should go on to another set of hard tyres. Of course, he's already used a set of mediums, so he doesn't have to go on to another compound. And Ricciardo should come out in 18th place. So, yeah, he does come out in 18th place. So we'll see what his lap times are like and what his progress will now be. So the Alpine's now up to 11th and 12th. I've got to say, Pierre Gasly, despite going longer with his first stint for, to have fresher tyres, he's not really had any real pace since then. As now Carlos Sainz within a second of the Alpine. Sergio Perez has now cut the gap down to Norris from 4.1 to 3.1, 3.2 seconds. Russell slightly catching Leclerc again. But yeah, the main battle we're looking at right now is Sainz and Gasly fighting for 12th, as Sainz still not having a very good race, and his pace is not been good the whole way through. And Leclerc in second is 8 seconds behind Verstappen as Gasly comes in for a pit stop, which is quite an early time to come in again. And here he comes. 2 set of boots. And not the quickest pit stop. 2 seconds too slow. And that will put Gasly down in 18th place. A shame that he's not having a good final race, Gasly, because he's had a brilliant second half of the season. But, yeah, Gasly comes out in clean air in 18th. But, yeah, Leclerc is, 5, 8, 12, 14, 16, 18. I think about half a minute clear is Leclerc of his teammate Sainz. I know Sainz started at 16th, but yeah.
Mate, you could just ask me. Yes, he's 30 seconds ahead. I've got the live timing up.
Oh,
you
right.
you could just say.
As Norris now comes in for his final pit stop again, earlier than expected, given he pitted later than Piastri, but he's going earlier now. So 2.3 second stop, very good stop, and that should keep him secure from Perez for a bit longer once Perez makes his next pit stop, if Perez does indeed pit again, which he should. As Norris comes out in 10th place. Another set, of course, of hard tyres. Hulkenberg now pits. And Hulkenberg should come out in possibly 18th. As we're looking at the Alpine of Ocon. Got DRS assistance from the back of Norris. But, of course, Lando has only just pitted. But, yeah, so Norris has made his pit stop. Red Bull presumably will force Perez to go another few laps, probably till lap 40 before he pits again. Mercedes in the what do you call it, in the pits. And here comes George Russell. Russell just asked the team, you sure a one stop won't work? They said nope. So they pitted him. Not the greatest pit stop, but it should keep him ahead of Lando Norris by a couple seconds or so. So Russell should come out in, I think, 9th place. And oh no, Norris is right there. Been a fantastic outlap, and Russell, he does come out ahead, but not by that much, only by a few tenths of a second. So great pit stop for McLaren, and brilliant outlap from Lando. Now right on the back of Russell. As we've seen this season, Mercedes' pit stops have been very poor compared to the other front-running teams. They've been very lackadaisical with them. Russell now, thankfully, has got, I think, DRS from the back of Stroll ahead, which is helping him stay ahead of Norris for now. And yeah, Russell looking okay for the moment, as Leclerc has been told to box as we're on lap 36, and he obliges. Here he comes. Will it be another good stop? Yep. 2.6 seconds, and that will keep Leclerc surely ahead of Russell. And bring Leclerc possibly out 7th place as Lewis Hamilton pits as well. As Lando Norris does the fastest lap of 1:28.7. And Leclerc comes out, ahead of Stroll. And that is very important for his race. But yeah, Hamilton has pitted also. And Hamilton now down in 12th on the hard tyre. Leclerc 6th, Stroll 7th, Russell 8th, Norris 9th. As Russell, right on the back of Stroll, has to overtake Stroll to keep this 3rd place for now. And he does. So Russell up to 7th. And now Norris has got to overtake Stroll to keep up with Russell. Can he do so? McLaren is quicker normally in a straight line than the Aston Martin. Not by much, but by a decent amount. But I don't think Norris is going to be able to do it into turn 9. And nope. And that is going to cost him dearly. Now on lap 37 of 58. Yeah, Norris getting seriously held up now in the middle sector. As Piastri and Alonso now pit as well. So, Tsunoda up to 3rd. Piastri, 2.2 second stop. Brilliant from McLaren yet again. Leclerc up to 4th. Russell 5th. And Norris, well, not quite in 6th yet. It's now Stroll in 6th. Norris in 7th. Piastri comes out in 10th ahead of Alonso. Now Norris right on the back of Stroll on the exit of the hairpin. So we've got Ocon up to 8th. Sainz up to 9th. Then Piastri 10th. Alonso 11th. And Hamilton right behind Alonso. Hopefully we'll see some of that in a moment as Lando Norris is up to 6th. But please, Mr. Director, cut to the background. Here we go. Hamilton versus Alonso down the first DRS zone. And Hamilton, with the hotter tyres, gets it done into turn 6. Can Alonso, though, come back? And his ex-teammate, we will find out as we are on lap 38. Only about 20 laps to go in this Formula 1 season. Alonso tries to come back, but can't do so. But Yuki Tsunoda staying out there as Daniel Ricciardo, I think, just tried to overtake Sargent, but Sargent got back past. I think with Tsunoda, to be honest, if they're going to finish in the points, I think they're going to have to do a two-stopper. Because with still 20 laps to go, I think they'll lose too much time. As Alonso saying on the radio, we have the slowest car on the straight by far. Deja vu for Fernando.
Or Fernando.
As black and white flag for Albon for track limits, as Leclerc passes Tsunoda for third. Would love to know what Alonso has done in a past life, because he has been, since his second world championship, been incredibly unlucky with just how his career's gone. I mean, has to take some blame with it as well, but yeah, been a
Yes. Yes, he does.
been a disappointing career, even though he is still an amazing driver. We all know that. As Alonso gets back past Lewis Hamilton. We didn't quite see how he did it, but he is back past him as they come up to turn 9 now. Can Hamilton re-overtake? No, he cannot. Remember, of course, Alonso is on, I think, 1 lap fresher tyres, so Alonso really should have the advantage over Hamilton. As, Zhou has just pitted and come out in 20th and is on the medium tyre. As, here you go. Lewis just saying on the radio, he brake tested me. I got brake tested like way before the braking zone. Looking at that, looks very similar to me to what happened in Saudi Arabia with Max and Lewis, where Lewis could have overtaken him, but he decided not to, which is why it's not a brake test.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Lewis just trying to play games there. And Alonso re-overtaking as now Russell passes Tsunoda for 4th place. Once Sergio Perez pits, if he does pit again, then should be 3rd for Russell. But
what? The pace of Perez has been the exact same with Verstappen since everyone else has pitted. Been very, very impressive, and I think Perez has given himself a real good chance to get in the podium with these lap times he's been able to do.
And hold on a minute, as we've got Carlos Sainz fighting with Esteban Ocon and actually overtaking Esteban Ocon, but Piastri has passed the pair of them. Piastri up to 8th. Perez is 14 seconds clear of Leclerc with, 18, 19 laps to go, and Leclerc's not exactly catching him by a second per lap. I think Perez, as Alonso and Hamilton noted for driving erratically. Haven't seen that one before. If Perez keeps these lap times up compared to Leclerc, I think Perez might be able to just stay out there until the end, as long as the tyres can live with that. Because the lap times, as you say, are really strong. As Leclerc in 3rd, only 2 seconds clear of Russell. Russell about 2.5 seconds clear of Norris. Is Gasly passing Sargent lower down the field. And Carlos Sainz up in 9th place. Sainz, though, has only pitted once. And there are still cars behind that have got fresher tyres and I think are lapping quicker. So, at the minute, Carlos Sainz, I don't think, is heading for a point. Which is not very good, of course. If Sergio Perez, though, was to stay out and finished in 2nd, and Ferrari finished 3rd with Leclerc, and Sainz did not score a point, of course, that would be 15 points. Of course, they don't get the fastest lap. And then if Mercedes finish, say, 4th and 9th, or 4th and 10th, then that would be, 14 points? Something like that. So, at the minute, I'd say Mercedes have got the upper hand in that battle for 2nd in the championship, because Carlos Sainz is not really with it today. As Russell asking, how is Lewis getting on? Mercedes responding, saying, yeah, he's doing a good job at the moment. He's in a fight of his own. Russell saying, what the fuck does that mean? How are we doing in the championship? Are we good? Mercedes responding, all we can do is the best race that we can do. We're fine at the moment. Yeah. And no further investigation, by the way, for Alonso and Hamilton, rightfully so. I mean, the live standings, it shows Ferrari overtaking Mercedes, but Carlos Sainz, I think, will fall back before the end. But, yeah, Lewis is not having a good race. I don't know why they saying that. Having an absolute shit show. How Ricciardo passed Sargent. Look at that. Right round the outside at turn 9. Superb overtake. And Sargent being easily overtaken by Gasly into turn 1. I don't know if Logan had an issue at the end of the final sector. Now looking at the battle between Tsunoda and Norris for 5th place. And yeah, looks to me like Perez and, well, maybe not Perez necessarily, because he could still pit and still end up having a decent result. But I think Tsunoda is probably going for a one-stop strategy here, as Sainz saying on the radio, what is our race? Ricky, I'm a bit lost. And his engineer responding, try to go as long as possible and just hope. Basically what their strategy is, as Lando Norris passes Yuki Tsunoda for 5th.
Yeah, got to say that finally Leclerc, Russell have started to pick up their pace over the last couple of laps now, going about 0.6 of a second faster than Perez. So they're finally starting to catch Perez a bit more quickly. But as you said, Perez probably capable of going to the end here.
Yeah, we've got about, 15 laps to go. As Alonso passes Ocon for 10th. There's no Perez pits. I thought they were possibly going to go to the end. But new set of hard tyres. But he is now going to be so quick on a fresh set of tyres. Brilliant pit stop. 2.2 seconds. Leclerc 2nd now. Russell up to 3rd. And Perez comes out. Where is he in relation to Lando Norris? And he's going to be ahead by... Is he going to be ahead? No, Norris comes out ahead by a couple seconds. But he is, I think, about as close to Norris as he was when Lando pitted. So he's not really lost anything from staying out a lot longer compared to Lando. But he should be very quick now, Perez. As Stroll has pitted as well and has come out in 13th place on the medium tyres. Here comes Lewis Hamilton to pass Esteban Ocon for 10th place, the final point. But let me just update quickly that Logan Sargent in 20th is on the hard tyre. And then you've got the 2 Alfa Romeos, 17th and 18th on the mediums. And Lance Stroll is on the medium tyre, so we'll see what he can do. Was up in the top 10 for a while. As Max Verstappen has pitted and, of course, had the freedom to do that because he's over a pit stop clear of Leclerc. As we're now on lap 44 out of 48. 58, sorry. Yeah, Verstappen rejoins in the lead. Make sure, guys, of course, to stick around until after the stream, as I will be doing a reaction to the race. So make sure to let me know who your driver of the day is today. A long way to go in this race, as Sergio Perez is about to overtake Yuki Tsunoda for 5th. As Albon has pitted again. Williams have just had a very mediocre race. But as Perez goes up to 5th, that puts Tsunoda into 6th. And as it stands, AlphaTauri will go up to 7th in the championship. But if Tsunoda does lose any more positions, then Williams will go back up to 7th. Of course, that money is so important for the Williams team. Now looking at Alonso right on the back of Carlos Sainz. But not ready yet, I don't think, to overtake Carlos Sainz. So Zhou Guanyu has gone up to 16th place. So, update who is on what tyre compound quickly. So we've got, Zhou 16th on the medium. Albon has come out on the hard compound tyre. And of course, Ricciardo in 13th is on the hard. Stroll on the medium. Max, once again, as he usually does, complaining about the downshifts. Been complaining about since the first race in Bahrain. As, Alonso should eventually overtake Carlos Sainz here. As he, closes in a lot through turn 3. Of course, that long corner destroys the tyres. Carlos Sainz has been on these tyres for, I think, about 20 or just over 20 laps now. Alonso, DRS open. And Carlos Sainz is defending. Defense to the inside, but I think this is really just inevitable that Alonso is going to overtake. Alonso, though, doesn't have the greatest run through the chicane. And no, Sainz has a good exit, so I think Alonso probably won't be able to get the move done into turn 9. As Leclerc reminded that he has 2 strikes for track limits, and he says, yeah, I know, as Max Verstappen does the fastest lap of the race, a 1:26.9, and that should be the fastest lap taken for the Grand Prix. As Verstappen didn't quite dominate during the first stint, as Lewis Hamilton has been Lewis Hamilton will be investigated after the race for a pit stop infringement. What could that be?
Yeah, the Medlin did tweet that he's been noted for a pit stop infringement, but that's all that they've given us.
God. Well, I mean, he's used 2 different types of tires, so it can't be that. I don't know what it could be. I've not noticed anything at the pit stops. So we'll see. As Alonso, I think, overtook Sainz into the hairpin. Sainz tries to come back. So I just looked away from the screen, but Alonso is ahead. And Alonso actually up in 8th place. Sorry that I didn't update the order, as I left it the same for a bit too long.
Well, I tell you what, I think that Tsunoda will be getting overtaken very soon here, Chaz.
Yeah, Piastri right behind him now. As in the live standings, Lando Norris is heading to 4th in the championship, only a point clear of Leclerc. But the race is not over yet. Sergio Perez is within a few tenths of a second of Lando Norris, and that certainly will help Charles Leclerc's attempt to finish 4th in the standings. I reckon, though, with Tsunoda, I reckon he could probably finish in 7th, because Alonso is 8.5 seconds behind Piastri. So I think Tsunoda could get quite a few points here. As Ferrari, as it stands, are going up to 2nd in the championship. Level on points, though, as Gasly has been noted for a pit stop infringement. As contact between Perez and Norris into the chicane. I thought that was going to be a simple enough overtake between Perez and Norris. But contact made. I'm not quite sure why that happened. As, Gasly will be investigated after the race for a pit stop infringement. No idea what this is about. As now Hamilton trying to shape up for a move on Carlos Sainz. Can he get a good enough run to pass Sainz? And if he does this, the Mercedes will be heading for 2nd in the championship. And Lewis Hamilton round the outside. And he gets it done just about. And as it stands, Mercedes-Benz are heading for 2nd in the standings. As we're on lap 48 Or 58, and here's a replay of the Perez-Norris incident. Perez went down the inside, and Norris saying on the radio, yeah, he just crashed into me, and it did look like that, didn't it, Deb? Just understeered straight into him, which Perez has a habit of doing.
Perez, of course, did do that famously to his teammate about 25 times at a Monaco Grand Prix. Paul Jensen got so much contact from Perez unneedlessly in 2013, which was ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, Perez saying he just turned into me. How many times have we heard Perez say that?
Yeah.
I mean, Lando certainly did nothing wrong.
As Sergio Perez has now overtaken Lando Norris into turn 6. Lando trying to come back into turn 9, but can't get the move done. It was inevitable that Perez was going to pass Lando, the Red Bull, a lot quicker, as Piastri has passed Tsunoda for 6th. And that incident under investigation for causing a collision. And, well, you look at the rule book, I'd say that's a 5-second penalty because Perez did cause a collision. I mean, if I was to be running Formula One, that type of incident would not be worthy of a penalty. But if you look at the way the rule book is designed, that is probably a 5-second penalty. So
don't get me started on the rule book, but just an update on the pit stop infringements. It's relating to pit crew potentially not wearing the required eye protection during a stop.
Or error from those teams if that's what's happened there. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that after the race. So yeah, Piastri is up to 6th. Tsunoda in 7th. That's great news for Williams. Tsunoda 6 seconds, or just under 6 seconds clear of Alonso. Tsunoda heading for 7th or 8th place, I would say, at this moment.
I'm not so sure. I think he'll probably maybe be lucky to get a point.
Maybe. We'll see
His
how the
pace
next
is,
few laps go.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the timing, and yeah, it's not looking great.
How much is he losing to Alonso at the minute?
Just in the first sector alone, he's lost 0.4 to Alonso, so
right,
not great.
Well, of course, if his tyres do properly hit the cliff, then that will be alarm bells for that team. As Alex Albon here passing Hulkenberg for 15th, and that's probably going to be Albon's last overtake of the season in the rocket ship. And Williams, yeah, as it stands, will finish ahead of AlphaTauri by just 1 point. What an end to the season AlphaTauri have had. If only AlphaTauri had made the improvements a couple months earlier, then how different a season it could have been for them.
Yeah, if only they'd bolted an old Red Bull suspension into their car a little bit earlier, it would have been a little bit quicker.
As we're now looking at Stroll and Ocon fighting for 11th place. Stroll, I've got to say, has not been very quick on these medium tyres. He's not really caught Ocon as quickly as I expected. But nonetheless, they are fighting. As Alonso, I've just seen, has took a lot of time out for Tsunoda in the last minute and a half. As Lance Stroll now overtakes Ocon down the inside for 11th place. But yeah, Aston Martin, of course, they are fighting still for 4th in the championship. Going into this race, McLaren were only 11 points ahead of them, but as it stands, McLaren easily heading for... Oh, look, Verstappen, Sargent, and Zhou noted for pit stop infringement as well.
Yeah, for the exact same thing. I was about to say, the FIA having a little power trip here at the end of the season on these pit stop things. What on earth?
It's so stupid as well, because you know it's not going to result in anything. It's just going to be like a written warning or a small fine. It's just unnecessary. You know? I mean, yeah, it's, you know, if that's what's happened, it shouldn't happen, but...
Oh, and there you go.
5-second time penalty for Sergio Perez for causing a collision. And as per the regulations, that is the correct decision. And as it stands, if the race was to finish now, Perez would drop behind Norris and finish in 5th, but Perez pulling away pretty quickly. But given we've only got 7 or 8 laps to go, as yeah, Verstappen Sergeant Joe will be investigated after the race for pit stop infringement. Yeah, given we've only got a few laps to go, Perez is, I don't think, going to finish on the podium unless he has mental pace in these final few laps and passes Russell very quickly. So, your top 3, Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, it should finish that way unless Perez does something special. As Yuki Tsunoda in 7th place is now 2.9 seconds clear of Alonso. Alonso gaining. And yeah, I think Tsunoda will finish in the points because I don't think Carlos Sainz is going quick enough. But might be close between Tsunoda and Hamilton on the final lap. As it looks likely that Alonso will pass Tsunoda for 7th. As is a replay, and yeah, clear. Perez understeering into Norris. Perez asking, why are we given the penalty? I was ahead. No, you weren't. You were never ahead at any point in that incident. I don't know what you're smoking. But yeah. I think that's been with Perez the main disappointing thing for me is obviously he knows a lot of his qualifying performances this year have not been good enough, but some of the incidents this year he has not really taken ownership of as much as really he should do. That has pissed me off a bit because I can't really remember that many incidents this year where he's it's been debatable with him as to whether he did cause collision.
Yeah. As he's really, really close here to Russell already, Chaz.
Yep, 1.4 seconds now between the two as Ricciardo overtakes Esteban Ocon for 12th place.
Bestie, hold that.
As on lap 53, I've got to say, Ricciardo, he's not that far away from getting a point here. He's not, I mean, he won't get a point because I don't think there's enough laps for him to get it, but he's only, 5-6 seconds behind Sainz, and obviously Ricciardo pitted a bit later than Carlos did. So if he keeps pushing, you never know what could happen in these final few laps of the season. Of course, would benefit AlphaTauri if Ricciardo can pull off a miracle. But at least Ricciardo's had a much better race.
Yes, I mean, just to make things clear, I mean, my frustration with the Perez penalty is that you get a 5-second penalty for doing that, but then you also get only a 5-second penalty for taking someone out of a Grand Prix. I mean, the penalties just don't make any sense. So
yeah,
I mean, clear that Perez caused the collision, but I mean, he's not ended Norris's race.
No,
that's my main gripe with it.
Yeah, they need to like redesignate like what type of incidents deserve what type of penalties, because any type of like causing a collision getting a 5-second penalty is not right, because some causing collisions are like egregiously bad, like Perez on Albon in Singapore, or Perez on Magnussen.
Bring back the stop go.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I think most people agree that having a 5-second penalty covering all incidents just isn't quite right. As Sergio Perez now right on the back of Russell up to turn 9. Russell defends to the inside quite late, but Perez takes 3rd place. Remember, has that penalty. Can he build a 5-second gap in 4.5 laps? We're about to find out. As a couple other fights out there. Tsunoda now has Alonso within a second of him on now lap 55. And Carlos Sainz has Lance Stroll just a second behind him in the fight for the final point. As Ricciardo catching those two as well. So it might be a three-way fight in the end. As here we go, on board with Alonso. And surely Alonso will take 7th. But what a performance from Tsunoda on a one-stopper, and definitely is going to finish in the points. Alonso also having a very good final race. Obviously, Aston Martin not very quick at this part of the season, but Alonso still bringing the neck of that car. As at the moment, because Russell has momentarily lost that position, Ferrari are back up to second in the championship. So if Perez can build a 5-second lead and Carlos Sainz can hang on to 10th place, then Ferrari will finish second in the championship. So Carlos Sainz needs to...
Wait, would they finish, if they finish their points, would Ferrari win it anyway? Because they've actually...
Yeah, having the race win.
Won a Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here is Stroll. Now, right on the back of Sainz, as Max Verstappen has started lap 56. 3 full laps to go, and still plenty to be decided before the end of this season. A Stroll not quite close enough into turn 9 to overtake, but Carlos has got to give it everything to keep that Aston Martin behind, because if he does, and Perez can somehow magically build a gap, then Ferrari are in business.
The graphic was wrong, by the way, because they were still showing Perez in third without the penalty applied. Thank you, Chris Medland, for being better than the freaking graphics people.
As Stroll about 7/10 of a second behind as they begin. These two begin their own lap 56. Tsunoda, by the way, still ahead of Alonso. Lewis Hamilton only about 2.2 seconds behind Alonso. Tsunoda might be able to keep ahead of Hamilton. Still, they're going to be very close in these final couple laps. As Alonso very close ahead to Tsunoda. And we're not seeing what's happening with that fight. Tsunoda still ahead on the exit of the chicane. Stroll, though, closing. Not close enough. As Ferrari are telling Carlos Sainz to box. So clearly they feel that as Alonso passes Tsunoda, Alonso up to 7th. So clearly they feel that they're not going to get second in the championship because Perez not going to build the gap. Only 2.5 seconds clear now of Russell with 2 complete laps to go. As Alonso down the inside of Tsunoda and had the superior grip. Great move, great race for Fernando. As here is Max Verstappen coming towards the second half of his penultimate lap. And it's been yet another comfortable Grand Prix. As yes, Carlos Sainz does pit. So Lance Stroll is up to 10th place. And Ricciardo, though, catching very quickly. Ricciardo only a second and a half behind. I think he may run out of time there. Verstappen about to start the final lap of 2023 as Carlos Sainz is going to come out in 15th place on the soft compound tyre. A quick word, though, Nib, on our world champion, Max Verstappen, about to win. He'll take his 19th win of 22 races. What an unbelievable season it's been for Verstappen.
I mean, ridiculous season by Verstappen. I mean, we've probably just witnessed the best season a Formula One driver has ever had. I mean, obviously, statistically it is. But wow. I mean, ridiculous level that Red Bull and Verstappen have shown all season long.
Oh.
They've never let the foot off the gas. As yes, Leclerc is going to try and let Perez through to build the gap.
Yeah,
if that's what you're going on about.
Yep, Perez has gone up to second place. As I was thinking there briefly, Leclerc might have had a problem, but yeah, Perez up to second for exactly the reason you said.
Leclerc come on the team radio and suggested that. You missed it.
Maybe it will work. And I think I did see the beginning of it, but it was such a long message I couldn't quite read all of it. As here comes Max Verstappen to take his 4th win as Carlos Sainz is pitting again. Max Verstappen to take his 4th win in a row in Abu Dhabi and to take his 19th win of 2023. Max Verstappen wins in Abu Dhabi. And Red Bull, will they secure a 1-2? No, they will not. And I don't think Perez will secure a podium. As we've got to wait as Lewis Hamilton has passed Yuki Tsunoda for 8th. As Perez, where will he end up? Let's just see. As I think they're about to, they should relegate him down, hopefully, in a moment. Because I think, yeah, he should be in 4th place, should Perez. As for some reason, it's showing Carlos Sainz as being in the pits. But it is, I'm pretty sure, Leclerc 2nd, Russell 3rd, Perez 4th, Norris 5th, Piastri 6th, Alonso 7th, Hamilton 8th, Tsunoda 9th, Stroll in 10th, and then Ricciardo 11th, Ocon 12th, Gasly 13th, Albon 14th, Sainz 15th, Hulkenberg 16th, Sargent 17th, Zhou 18th, Bottas 19th, and Kevin Magnussen last of all, and everybody has finished the final race of the season. As did Tsunoda get back ahead of Hamilton, or did Hamilton eventually get it done? Is a replay into turn 9.
Timing shows Hamilton ahead.
And well, Hamilton lost.
Sorry, Tsunoda ahead.
Oh right, yeah, they're just showing it now. Tsunoda, Hamilton went too wide through turn 9. Had oversteer, and Tsunoda got back through and takes 8th place. Brilliant result for Yuki Tsunoda. Have they relegated Perez down to 4th place yet? They should have.
Yes, they have, yeah.
Because I was wondering why they still hadn't done it. Because that was quite stupid from them. But there you go, guys. That is your 2023 Formula 1 season over and done with. As Nib said, that is quite possibly the best individual season we have ever seen from any driver, and possibly the best individual season we'll ever see, unless he does this obviously next year with more races on the calendar. But yeah, there you go. That's the Grand Prix over and done with. Let me know, guys, in the live chat, as it says apparently Carlos Sainz has retired. So, yeah, don't know about that, but I'll just leave it as it is. So, yeah, a decent race. Nothing amazing, but decent enough, I'd say. But Nib, driver of the day, who would you go for?
Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, I have to go for Tsunoda as well. Brilliant drive to pull the one-stop strategy off and finish in 8th. Sadly, they couldn't take 7th in the championship, but still, a brilliant drive from Tsunoda and a brilliant final weekend for him. Let me just start up the poll quickly to ask, who is your driver of the day for the 2023 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix?
I think there should be a bigger landslide than what it was yesterday with Tsunoda.
Yeah, probably. As Verstappen just doing his donuts on the grid. So the options for driver of the day will be Max Verstappen. I'll put George Russell in there because I thought he had a good drive. Obviously, Yuki Tsunoda. And then the 4th option, I will go. I'll put. I don't even know to put the 4th option. I'll put Ricciardo because I thought he had a a good race today, despite strategy being a bit messed up. But yes, Tsunoda is the driver of the day.
Yeah, very, very comfortable. And I was just going to say that Ricciardo would be ruining yesterday's qualifying.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, that AlphaTauri was quick today.
Yeah, and he was only, I think, a few hundredths of a second slower than Hamilton up in 11th. So, if he just pulled off a better final lap, then even if he had started in 11th or 12th, he would have probably ended up with a couple points today. But,
sorry, I'm laughing at Leclerc because Tammy's tweeting out, obviously, the team radio. And Charles was asking, I do some burnouts? And Xavi said, no burnouts. And Charles saying, for fuck's sake, not even this.
Great.
He's not very happy at the moment, is Charles.
Great drive from Charles to secure second. Ferrari's pace actually in the end today better than expected, which again, good omen going forward for next season, because of course they had a really good race in Vegas. I've already switched over from the F1.
Oh yeah, shit. What's the score?
Spurs almost went 2-0 up. Yeah, we're about 34 minutes in. Yeah, brilliant drive from Leclerc. And yeah, let me know in the poll, guys, who you think driver of the day is. I'll keep it running for as long as I can. So, Nib, season over. What have you thought in general of this 2023 season? Obviously, it hasn't been as good as we hoped, but at least it improved in the second half of the year. But what are the main positives you would take away from this season?
That we're just constantly witnessing greatness. I think is that about the only thing. I mean, the second half of the season has obviously been significantly better than the first half of the season. I mean, the first half of the season was pretty dire, and things have closed up, significantly, thankfully. But I'm not so sure if that will remain the case come the start of next season.
No, I think Red Bull will dominate again. Maybe not as much as they did this year, but still in probably 15 plus races at minimum next season. Obviously, we've had, outside of Red Bull, the field's been pretty close. Obviously, Aston Martin at one point were up at, on the podium a few times. Ferrari, have improved during the season. Mercedes have been okay, given how they started the year. McLaren, obviously, massive improvement. AlphaTauri, massive improvement from them at the very end of this year. Really excited to see what they're like at the start of next season. Alpine have had a couple podiums and had a couple decent races here and there, but they've been overall pretty mediocre. Obviously, Williams have been a bit of a surprise. And as we've been saying this season, outside of Red Bull, the field is very close. We just need Red Bull to come closer to the pack behind, and then I think we'll have a great season, whether it's next season or the season after. Gap just needs to be closed. We'll see, of course, at the start of March, first Grand Prix in Bahrain, whether that is the case, whether the gap has been closed. But as Nib said, I think Red Bull comfortably quicker than the field next season.
Yeah. And realistically, I think probably one of the highlights of the season was the start of the season and seeing Alonso, fighting up towards the front of the grid again. I mean, especially some of the battles that he was having with Hamilton at times. It was really, really good. And then, of course, for me personally, as an Australian, as an Oscar Piastri fan, seeing some of Piastri's performances this season were really, really encouraging, especially considering he had a year out of any driving. So it has been quite promising. Of course, he needs to work on his time management, but I mean, I think it's more just a case of in dirty air where he's sort of in a train where he's really struggling because his pace after actually got out of the out of the train was pretty strong in the second half of the race. So certainly some encouraging signs, and I think McLaren are the one to watch next year, really. I mean, I know Ferrari have been pretty good over the last month or so, but McLaren, I think with their driver lineup, they've got two drivers who are very, very consistent, as we've seen today and a little bit recently with Sainz. He can really have some drop off in some levels.
I think McLaren. In case maybe some people out there are worried this might happen, I don't think McLaren are going to just drop back to being a midfield team. I think they'll still be right up there. Of course, next year's car is going to be pretty much the first McLaren car that they've been able to have through their new wind tunnel. So that is going to help the McLaren team quite a bit. And, we'll see what they can do over the winter. I think they'll be strong next season and definitely a strong contender for one of the top 3 constructors championship positions. With Piastri, though, great debut season and very excited to see what he does next season. And I think if McLaren are one of the top 2-3 best teams on the grid, wouldn't be surprised if Piastri, secured, say, a top 5 in the championship next season if McLaren are as competitive next year as they have been in the second half of this season. But some positives from this season, as I said, but we can definitely have better than what we've had this year. But you never know, 2024 might end up being a really exciting season. We'll have to see. But
and to be fair, this race wasn't the worst. I mean, there was a pretty constant level of stuff going on in this race. Compared to obviously some previous Grand Prix we've had around here, certainly a hell of a lot better. And just quickly, one last thing, Max Verstappen ticked off another thing in this race. He led 1,000 laps this season and led the exact same number of laps as Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost did in the 1988 season, which is 1,003 laps.
Wow. Yeah, you run out of things to say for Verstappen this year. Just an amazing season. And again, the scary thing is he's only, 26 years old. And he's got plenty more records, I think, to break. And plenty more races to win. By the start of 2026, he could have 40 more wins. How terrifying is that to think of? 40 more wins in the next couple years.
And he'll be right on Lewis's door. Like, goodness me.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes for Max. But do you want to stick around, or what do you want to do?
Nah, I'll probably head off and watch the rest of the football and do some other things.
Okay. Just want to say, and obviously I know the chat echoes this. Thank you so much for coming on and helping out as usual. Been great to have you on, and can't wait for next season where hopefully we'll get some more exciting races. But massive thank you again for this year, mate.
Of course, and I always love doing this with you. Been doing it for a good amount of time now, and of course to all the regulars in chat, everyone that I'm seeing right now. I know both Chaz and I really, really appreciate your constant support, and not just for the race watch-alongs, for the quali watch-alongs, for the practice watch-alongs. Some of you guys are always here, and we really do to that. And we'll of course, Chaz will see you on for some more of his videos and streams to wrap up this season. But of course, we'll see you probably see you guys next for what will be testing, which is 2 months away.
3 months, I think. Just
three months,
something like that. It will, trust me, it'll go by very, very quickly. But thank you guys so much. As Nib was saying, massively appreciate the support, and again the regulars showing up for all types of content. Thank you guys a lot for that. And yeah, again, Nib, cheers for coming on as many times as you have. And hopefully, yeah, you have a good rest of your day, mate.
Yeah, I will do, and I'll talk to you later, mate. All right, see you guys. Bye bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye. Massive thanks for him coming on. Of course, difficult timing as we always, make sure to point out, for him coming on stream a lot of the time. So yeah, massive thank you to him. And again, a massive thank you to you guys. Should we go through quickly a review of the teams? I think we will. Just a quick review of the teams, not their seasons, but the races that they had today. Red Bull, Max Verstappen, another win, brilliant drive. Sergio Perez cost himself a podium by needlessly, colliding with Lando Norris. A poor mistake from the Mexican. Perez ending up finishing in 4th. Got to improve next season, because if he doesn't, he will not be at Red Bull in 2025, no doubt about that. But yeah, Red Bull, what an amazing season. And I don't think they're going to be stopped next year either. Mercedes-Benz, did they secure second in the championship? I believe they did. Let me just quickly check. And yes, they did. Mercedes secure second by 3 points. And really, they've got their drivers to thank for that, because this car has not been good enough, really, to be second in the championship. The reason they finished in second is because the two drivers, Russell, yeah, he's not had a great season, but the two drivers are, absolutely brilliant and have done really well with what is a pretty shit car. So, yeah, thankfully for the Mercedes fans, and Hamilton fans, the Russell fans, this year is over. The pain is over, and it'll either be restarted, that pain and misery, in early March next year, or they'll be back to where we know they can get to. James Allison, of course, will be designing next year's car. It has to be a front-running, race-winning car next year. There is no excuse for them not being a lot better next season. Next up, Ferrari. Great drive from Charles Leclerc, and Leclerc has ended up finishing 5th in the championship, level on points with Alonso. Alonso ending up ahead, I think purely because Alonso has had more podiums this season. So brilliant drive from Leclerc to get up to 5th and end up with a good finish overall. But yeah, 3rd in the championship. Disappointing they couldn't get second. They really could have got second this weekend, but Carlos Sainz just did not have a good weekend, and that really cost them. Leclerc did the best he could, but it wasn't enough. Good end to the season for Leclerc. Overall, though, Ferrari for the season, even though they did win a race in Singapore, they can do better than what they've done this season. And we have seen in the second half of the year that, they absolutely are capable of more than what they were doing in the first half of the season. So Ferrari next year, I think, should be the team to look out for in terms of the team that is most likely to put up a fight against Red Bull. We do know, at the end of the day, since this new ground effect era began in 2022, the only team that has proven that they can fight Red Bull is Ferrari. So it's up to them to get it right. We'll see what they can do next season. McLaren, 5th and 6th in the end. Not a great race in the end. Their pace was actually quite poor, I thought. Not really great tyre management either. Yeah, just not really a great race. But McLaren do finish 4th in the championship. Great turnaround after what was a very difficult start to the season. Remember, before that Austria upgrade, they were down in 6th or 7th in the championship, something like that. Were way behind Aston Martin and have ended up finishing 22 points clear of the Aston Martin team and only just over 100 points behind Mercedes and Ferrari. So brilliant season overall. Both drivers have been, great and have had, obviously, Oscar Piastri, a great debut season. Next year, though, definitely a top 3 in the championship is possible. And maybe, who knows, race wins in 2024. Aston Martin, Alonso, great drive from him to finish in 7th. He couldn't really have done any more than that. Lance Stroll ends up finishing in P10. Not a great drive from Stroll, but at least he grabbed a point. But yeah, Aston Martin, disappointing season after what was such a great start. Alpine, both drivers missing out on the points. Poor pace in the end. They never really looked likely after the first round of pit stops to finish in the points, which is unfortunate. But yeah, 6th in the championship realistically was the best they could do, given McLaren and how they improved, in the middle of the season. And yeah, next year needs to be better because they can do better. There's no doubt about it. Alpine, I think we've seen in the second half of the season with the improvement they made, Alpine definitely are capable of more than what we've seen a lot of the time in 2023. So I am hoping for a bit of a step forward, but I'm not expecting anything from this team because they have been a continuous disappointment for a few years now. Williams F1 secure 7th in the championship. AlphaTauri only could score 4 points, meaning that Williams have finished 7th in the championship by just 3 points, and they deserve it. They've had an amazing season given, again, the lack of money, resources, even the outdated infrastructure that they do have. So a brilliant year for Williams, and I really hope that this is the start of something, and that prize money for finishing 7th will be a massive boost to this team. Try and, get even better going forward for the future. Alex Albon had an okay race today. The Williams car this weekend just wasn't very quick. We'll see what they can do next season, but honestly, I think they could be a bit of a surprise next year. Wouldn't be surprised if they were getting some more strong points scoring finishes in 2024. AlphaTauri, good end to the season. 8th in the championship is a good save from them, given the the first 3 quarters of the season they were last in the championship, and there was a part of the season where it looked like they weren't going to climb any higher than last, but eventually they did get up to 8th, and if only they had improved a bit earlier in the season, they would have ended up finishing in 7th. But going into next year, they are the midfield team, I think, to look out for. They're a dark horse, I think, for next season in that midfield pack. Yuki Tsunoda, driver of the weekend, as far as I'm concerned. What a weekend for him in the AlphaTauri. Ricciardo, good race. Should have been probably a points finish if he had had a bit of a better qualifying. But yeah, good end to the season for the team. But surely they can do better next year. Alfa Romeo, I think was 18th and 19th in the end. Pretty bad. And yeah, not a good enough season from them. And Haas F1, the typical. So there you go. That is your 2023 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And guys, to be honest, I think I'm going to head off in a few moments because I am pretty knackered. I've not, again, had a ton of sleep. And, of course, we are now done with this season. And, covering an entire Formula One season and doing as much content as I do, it is tiring covering the entire season. And, of course, next year will be even more tiring. With there being, 2 extra races. So, yeah, it's been a long season, even though it's not been a great season. I've enjoyed certain parts of the year. We've had some really great qualifying sessions, a couple good races, but we can definitely have better next season. Just want to say again, a special thank you to Niblo, co-commentator, and a key contributor, of course, for the channel. Again, as I said to him when he was on stream, massive thank you for him helping out like he does. Obviously, massive thank you to Rooks for in the chat, the head moderator I know he's not always been able to come along to every single stream, but when he does, he is an absolute 10 out of 10 when it comes to moderation. So cheers, mate, for all that you do. And thank you guys, all the regulars for, all of your contributions, your support. And thanks to everyone who is obviously a subscriber and supporter. Been great to have you along for the ride in 2023. And yeah, next season, pre-season testing, what, 3 months away, just under 3 months away. Sounds a long time, but it will go by very quickly. I can promise you that. We're only, 6 weeks away, less than that from Christmas. So yeah, it'll fly by. But as I said earlier, I've laid out my plan for my content for the winter break. I've got a few more streams to do before I break up for Christmas, if you could call it that. And I will, of course, be doing some streams in the early to mid part of February as we start then to build back up to Formula One again and get it properly into the 2024 season. Here is a quick look at the next 2 pieces of content on the channel. I'll be back live on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. UK time for a full review of the 2023 Formula One season. Then I'll be live again next Sunday at 12 p.m. UK time for my F1 2023 driver rankings. And then the Sunday after, the 10th of December, I'll be live again, same time, 12 p.m. UK time, for some early 2024 predictions that we're going to be doing. So it'll be those streams. And then, like I said earlier, there'll be about a 2-month break from streaming. And then I'll be back on the first Sunday of February, which I think is the 4th of February. Back for the live streams. But of course, I do have recorded videos planned. As I said earlier, I've got 8 to 10 recorded videos that I want to put out between, say, now and say mid-February. Will I be able to get out all of them? We'll have to see. Of course, I am at university at the moment, so I'm having to, juggle this and that as well. But yeah, if I can get at least 8 of the recorded videos I've got planned out, and plus, do the streams I'm going to do, then there should be plenty of content on the channel to keep you guys entertained over the winter. But yeah, we're not quite done on the channel as of yet. Like I said, we'll be live on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. for a F1 2023 season review. But guys, thank you so much for the 2023 Formula One season. And yeah, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for that content coming up and to keep up to date with everything going on in Formula One, because of course, when it comes to 2024, we will be doing plenty of watch-alongs, previews, reviews, all of that stuff. Keep you, again, bang up to date with everything going on in Formula One. Make sure before you go to hit the like button. It does help show me that you guys do enjoy the content. So that'd be great if you could do that, and it obviously does help the channel and the algorithm. And as I'm sure Rook will post in the chat a link to my Discord server, make sure to join the Discord if you want notifications for videos, streams, when those go live or uploaded, whatever you want to call them. And also when I do content updates, that's a great place for the notifications for those particular things. But guys, that is it for the watch along in 2023. And until our next live stream on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. for a full review of this 2023 Formula One season. And until the next watch along, which will be on the 21st of February, the first day of pre-season testing. Until then, guys, it has been me, Jazzer HD. Goodbye.